First thing I noticed when I was setting up my stream is that apparently at some point in time they dropped the bisexual tag I had on it. Weird. I still really like the lies, horrible lies. Maybe I should put a comma there. Yeah, I think that looks better. So what I was waiting for there was I was waiting for my chat window to finally be responsive. So we have our extractor. Oh man, if I had gone one more cycle, it would have been nice. Also, I like how, despite I think the last one being the shortest of the 3 sessions, I managed to make through more cycles. Just because a lot of them were just kind of building cycles and waiting for things to finish and things of that nature. We'll want to use one of those matsutakes. And the Briar's hold is thus good, meaning we just need to finish up the plan. You look over the pile of scrap components lying in the Briar. You look around, the bay is empty. Esh and Peak either elsewhere on the station or on the bridge a couple levels up. You begin sorting through the pile, separating out useful components and boxing them by use. You don't recognize everything you find, but before long you get into the rhythm of sorting. As you do, your mind starts to drift, your attention being drawn into the dark corners of the bay. The Briar is in surprisingly good condition, considering that Hawthorne and XPR must have been operating it for decades by now. The marks of care are everywhere, from delicate patch jobs polished to meld into the original finish, or the carefully bound wiring running through custom trunking. Esh loves this ship. That much is clear. Something catches your eye in one of the dark corners. A matte black streak of crates you hadn't spotted before. They're sleek and compact, tucked away behind some of the bigger, more worn containers. Let's investigate. You put the components away and go over to the sleek crates. You run your hands across their textured surface, but there's little hint of what lies inside the opaque metallic casing. Then you see it. A yellow symbol, embossed onto the far side of the crate. A universal sigil used by spacers, corporations, and manufacturers alike. It's one you've seen throughout your time as a sleeper. Its meaning all too familiar. Explosive contents. You hear a hiss, and Esh comes up through the bay's lock. She barely registers your presence, nodding at you as she passes. Sleeper. She busies herself with some task at the back of the bay. You know, it strikes me. That looks weird. I think that's the first actual typo. Unless British English uses that. Of course, what I'm referring to is busies. Let's ask about the crates. Esh doesn't turn around from whatever she's busy with. Just more supplies, Sleeper, like everything else here. You can't think of anything else to ask, but sense that the atmosphere has now somehow shifted. You quickly finish up the sorting and you slip out, waving goodbye to her back as you do. Okay, well, with that additional upgrade point, we can do fuck all. Excellent. And let's use the 4-5 here. No. Oh, that's actually useful. So we have... Thus... I assume this is going to be our 3 bits of info we need for Peak's plan. Okay, well... Let's see what our choices are here. And let's also make note of what their skills are asking for. Okay, so we're going to be spending a fair amount of time in the with the tug crews regardless, just decreasing suspicion. This one's going to be the one we want our high 5s and 6s for. Well, maybe the deflect suspicion as well, depending upon how everything else goes. Because these aren't huge, but very few of them, you know, they're all 6 spots. We have 5 dice. So bare minimum we would need to dump 18 dice into that. That is a little bit rough. Actually, I think I'm just going to hit up... Well... I'm going to use lots of our Matsutakes. Man, my cough's bad today. Some scrap is... In this case, because we have the money for it, welcome. Actually, we might be able to sell that ship mine. Okay, so that was 32 for that scrap. How much do we get here? 30. So we spent 2 scrap for 2 points, body points. Nice. I'll just use it next cycle. I mean, one way or the other, we're still good for a while. Which one had we worked on? Does it matter? It does not matter. So, like, logically, you might be sitting there thinking that I should probably finish up one of these first. And I agree with that, but I think the one that I should finish up first is this one. Okay. I'm grabbing a lozenge. Our dice are nice. With a little bit of luck, be able to finish up this. Actually, we don't even need the luck. We'll just eat. We could just eat up a point of suspicion. And we got lucky. Peak is waiting for you when you slip out of the operations center, nervously poking at their small slate. Sleeper, they hiss. I followed what you were doing on the network. Incredible work. How do you do that? It comes naturally. Peak smiles. I can't tell if that's modesty or just the truth. Interfacing skills like that, it's almost worth being... They stop themselves. Sorry, I didn't mean... I agree with the sentiment here, but that's not how they meant it. Don't worry about it. Peak nods. Sorry. You and Peak quietly slip into the main walkway and work your way back to the public areas of the cordon. Hey, that was the word that I meant to look up. How to fucking pronounce. Because I'm an idiot. Haven Age has had to quickly respond to the flotilla's arrival, and that means a lot of contractors and spacers walking through these corridors. You blend in easily enough. Haven't really met a spacer before Peak begins, as you might have guessed. They smile nervously. Hawthorne is an XPR service outpost, and since the collapse, no one came for refueling or repairs anymore. So my generation has never met anyone outside the company. We heard about sleepers, they nod in your direction, from the data packets that come through from XPR every once in a while. They usually contain news along with the corporate propaganda, but the reports were light on the details. SNRP have kept the sleeper program pretty quiet anyway, and I think XPR are only interested in telling their employees about it, because it made living in our company town look like a good life, in comparison to being a piece of corporate property. They freeze. Sorry, again, I don't mean... They look down. I'm just not sure how to talk about this stuff. It's fine, neither do I. Peak smiles. Glad I'm not alone. I'll shut up about it for now. You walk on a little further, the walkway becoming busier. You both relax a little more, go with the flow of people. I just want to say, I think I understand. They begin again. Clearly this has been on their mind. I understand the need to escape, get free of it all. They laugh at themselves. Structures, the systems, the company horizons, and a company town. They stare ahead. The small corridors, small places, small people. They look away. The slow death it brings. And sorry for that double tap. That's it. They turn to you. I get why you signed up to be a sleeper and why you escaped from that, too. It's not as simple as that. Peak looks a little crestfallen. I know, I'm just saying. They falter and give up. No one is as simple as that. And I kind of love that in this game, no one is as simple as that. It's great. You walk in silence again, each of you in their own thoughts, but moving together through the space nonetheless. Okay, maybe Ethan was that simple. After a while, you come to the entrance to the cordon, where handfuls of workers and crews filter in and out through two huge loading bay doors. Peak stops. Okay, they pause. I'm heading back to the Briar. Once again, incredible work on the sensors. That blind spot you created? That should give us a real advantage. See you soon. They head off, disappearing into the crowd almost immediately, outrunning their own nervousness. And the great thing is, half of the rolls on the die are suitable for us because we just need 4 or higher. 4 or higher, and it's not even a risk. 3, and the only risk is we might basically notify Haven Age security a little bit. C'est la vie. And emphasis food is real good for us here because it's 3 energy for less than the price of everything else, so... But at this point, provided we get even decent rolls, we're pretty solid. A rapid burst of movement catches your attention. A drone, its fins adjusting as it hovers in place, floats in the corridor. Hello? The drone shifts a little, but does not respond. The drone buzzes closer, and a voice gurgles out of its speaker, distorted and strange. Sleeper, come to the cordon. We need to speak. Who is this? The drone clicks and whirs, and the recording starts playing again. Sleeper, come to the cordon. We need to speak. Inspect the drone. You move closer, and the drone bobs away to a safe distance, but as it does, you see the HA of Haven Age emblazoned on its side. Could this be Feng's drone? Satisfied it has delivered its message, the drone rotates and accelerates away as rapidly as it arrived. You stare at it as it disappears from sight, hoping for some insight that escapes you. The cordon, then. As you enter the passage that leads through the cordon, a flash of movement catches your eye. The drone stops to make sure you've seen it, then flits into a side passage leading to a set of narrow stairs. You climb up through a dark shaft, the drone stopping at each landing to check you're following. Despite its lack of expression, there's something overbearing about the way the drone waits, impatiently realigning its fins in sequence. After a long climb, you come out into an observation platform, cordoning the vast ramshackle refugee ships beyond fill your vision. The scale seems impossible, and immediately you feel small and naive for even thinking you could affect the situation. Something shifts nearby. The drone again? A woman is stood at the window, at the edge of your vision. You aren't surprised you didn't notice her. She too seems impossibly small in the shadow of the flotilla. The drone buzzes by your shoulder, and she turns. Sleeper. Sorry for all the cloak and dagger nonsense. She nods at the drone. But I've never regretted being cautious. She smiles a tight smile, and holds out a hand. I'm Helena. Tight smile holds, but the drone keeps its single eye fixed on you. The effect is a little unnerving. Look. She glances around the empty observation deck as if checking for potential eavesdroppers. Let's be straight. Let's be straight with each other. I know about your plans, and she cuts in before you respond. I understand your motives. Look at her in her overalls. The yellow markers, the HA sigil. You've been on the eye long enough to recognize a Haven Age member when you see them. You're Haven Age. Yes, I expect that's obvious. Tight smile again. I hope you won't hold that against me. She glances around nervously again and moves a little closer. The entire situation, I am not here to defend it. She glances back at the flotilla. No one is as happy as about this, especially not the refugees. She sighs. I'm not your enemy here, no matter what you think. She pauses. Sleeper, tell me something. What does Haven Age mean to you? Not much, really. One of many forces on the eye. A work in progress. She smiles. Fair, I think. Haven Age is used to being criticized. In some ways, we invite it. Our members are free to bring up grievances at any meeting, to propose new structures and approaches. She shifts her weight impatiently. As a counselor, it's my duty to listen to them. That's why I was elected by the members. We're an imperfect system, yes, and each counselor, each member, each representative can be flawed and worse. She looks down. But we keep this place running. That's what we do. And non-members? There are paths to membership, and we cannot force everyone on the station to join us. What do you expect? We're an association of individuals. We cannot always account for the needs of those outside the structure. She turns and looks out at the flotilla. No matter how much we wish to. Can the eye take in thousands of refugees safely? I don't know. Place is a ruin, Sleeper. What do you think the council discusses? Price of mushrooms? We make plans. That's the other thing that I meant to look up. We make plans to keep this place spinning, keep life support working, to ensure Helena's slate chirps and a grim look passes across her face as she sees the notification. She looks tired, the screen light casting a rigid expression in a pale glow. Sleeper, I didn't bring you here to explain how Haven Age works. I came to talk about your plan to cross the cordon, breach the quarantine, and supply the flotilla. She looks directly at you. I know you think you're helping the flotilla, but you cannot do this. Right now, halfway across the ring, one of a countless series of debates are being held. These debates are to evaluate the potential harm that could be caused if the refugees of the flotilla are left to enter the station. These debates are at a standstill. Helena walks to the window. Too many of the Haven Age Council think of the flotilla as a threat. After recent events, a hardline group has emerged, protective and selfish. They seek only to benefit the members. In their eyes, and in their mind, the flotilla is a danger to life on the Eye. If you're caught crossing the quarantine, it'll only strengthen the hardline councilor's case. Criminals who stole a ship from XPR are undermining the security of the station. She shakes her head. It's exactly what they want. The refugees need supplies. They do, and that's exactly what I want to give them. But unless the quarantine is lifted through a fair process, they'll never get them. She sighs deeply. And those ex-XPR... Wow, that is an awkward statement. Spacers you're running with? Sleeper, do you know anything about them? Well, more than I know about you. She looks at you pleadingly. Let's change that, Sleeper. Why do you think the refugee flotilla came here now? Something is happening in the system. Something's pushing people out of colonies and outposts that have survived since Solheim's collapse. We need to be ready for whatever is coming, ready to protect the Eye. I know the Eye means something to you. I know there's a reason you're still here. Help me protect it. Wow. Really, I mean, I suppose we did give up 3 chances to leave. 2 real and 1 as like a virtualization of us. Helene fixes you with a strong look. Persuade those spacers that this is the wrong move, that they'll get caught and the flotilla will be locked down, that Haven Age will be delivered into those with the worst instincts. Forget this suicidal space run with people you barely know. Help me fight for the Eye. I don't need to think about it. Helene looks at you, hoping for some kind of response. Don't offer the excuse the hardliners need to lock the flotilla out altogether. Persuade the members that they are the safest pair of hands. She looks at you imploringly. Please. You look back at her and the flotilla behind. You can sense a desperation in her plea. Notification breaks the silence. Shit. She rapidly scrolls through pages of data. Sleeper, I need to go. She looks torn. Think about this. Please. Talk to the spacers. Help them see reason. And she quickly leaves the observation deck before you have time to respond. You stay for a moment, watching the lights of the tugs in the flotilla. Wonder what it feels like to be on one of those ships, so close to your destination, and yet so far from it. And then you think of the Haven Age Council chamber across the Eye, where the right of these people to find safety is being debated. You shiver, and then you too are gone, back in the stairwell in the cold dark below. I guess we need to finish this up anyway. Fortunately, there aren't too many more actions necessary for it, but... You meet Peak leaning in a corner of the canteen in their typically unassuming way. It occurs to you, as you approach, that Peak must have had some practice at staying invisible. All good? They look up from their slate. That crew you were talking to, they nod to the group leaving the cantina. Will they join us? Well, that's what they say. You aren't sure? Peak looks back at them as they disappear into the corridors of the installation. Looks like that we'll have to take them at their word either way. Peak beckons for you to follow as they peel off the wall and head out into the walkway overlooking the cordon. Glad you were here to talk with them and talk them into it. I never had much of a way with people. Peak smiles and looks away quickly as you walk. You and Ash seem to do okay. Peak laughs their light and easy laugh. Ash is not really like other people, which you've probably noticed. If only everyone was like Ash. Hot and, well, hot, quick to anger. They fade off, something drawing their attention. I couldn't think of the word hot-tempered. What I mean is people have caused me a lot of trouble. I've had people hate me without knowing a thing about me. They tuck their hair behind an ear. I'm sure you know the feeling. Okay, so this is probably our author's self-insert. They tend to ignore me. That sounds nice. Peak laughs a little. Peak leads you around a corner, heading back to the main cordon accessway. I appreciate you coming in and helping us out on this, Sleeper. On talking to the crew and, well, you know. Maybe after this insane plan is done, we can talk properly. You keep looking around. They keep looking ahead, and you realize they're nervous. Maybe. Peak doesn't say anything. Just keep walking down the corridor. Expression unchanging, their footsteps ever so slightly louder in the metal walkway. Better report the news to Ash. We have ourselves a tug escort. Peak stops at an intersection. See you soon, Sleeper, and please, take care. With that, they drift away, their head down, their gait changing as they do. Their practiced invisibility shrouding themselves like a cape. Yeah, 2 is still nice. Halfway there. And here I'll be cheap. The nice thing of that is that the expected return is actually 2 energy. Because the average is 2 energy. Interesting that we don't seem to have any way to try to talk to them. Like I said, maybe it'll show up once we have done everything. Sleeper! Peak's waiting for you when you leave, but they look different, pale and drawn out. You need to come up to the Briar now. They don't meet your eye. It's happened. Not here. Peak hisses. Come to the ship. We'll be waiting. Peak walks away. Don't take long. And with that, they disappear around the corner, leaving you anxious and confused. As you walk into the Climbing Briar's cavernous bay, now filled with crates and containers, Ash is waiting for you. In front of her, sliced open, this inside scattered across the top of a heavy-duty crate is an object you recognize. Lean's drone. Freeze. Come in. Quick. Peak nudges you into the bay, looking behind you before sealing the entryway. We have to start being careful. You move closer to the container, your eyes on the drone splayed out in pieces, some parts of it hooked up to a slate that Peak picks up and begins tapping away at. Ash looks up from the dissection. You caught it buzzing around nearby, heading for the ship. She leans over and taps the HA sigil on one of the removed pieces of plating. It's a Haven H spy. We think we got it before it sent data back, but we can't be sure. Peak looks at you nervously. Ash cuts in. Have you noticed anyone watching you? Any drones like this? Anyone following you up to the Briar? To the Briar? I've seen this drone. Following you? I met its owner. Ash pauses for a while, Peak looking between the two of you. Explain, Sleeper. Ash says quietly. Tell them that Helene. Explain that you met with Helene at the cordon, and you tell Ash and Peak about what she told you, that the Haven Age Council are debating lifting the quarantine but they're blocked by the hardliners. You speak faster and faster, but before you can finish, Esh walks away in anger and comes back again, her eyes burning. What is this, Sleeper? Have you understood nothing from what we've told you? She paces in front of you. Haven Age are not your friends. They're administrators, which means they're interested only in their own power, their own survival, and their own causes. They divide people as easily as sorting livestock. The greater good of their work demands it, the wider project of the station, the colony, and the nation. Her eyes are wide as she speaks, her anger barely contained. I didn't have a choice. Pete cuts in. Listen to them, please, Esh. They're with us. Pete glances between you two. What was Sleeper supposed to do? They were ambushed by this Helene. I only listened. Let me tell you something, Sleeper, Esh says, her rage hardening into pain. When people become administrators, they give up something, some part of being human. Being an equal among others goes away. They start talking about the greater good, the systems, the ways in which their hands are tied or their processes compromised. My mother was the administrator of Hawthorne, and I've seen what it did to her. That noble, higher calling, it's toxic. People should never have the chance to decide the fate of others. And those that do so at the cost of their humanity. Peak tries to cut in, but Esh holds up a hand. Don't start, Peak. Don't ask me to be reasonable or calm down. Thousands of people are desperate out there. Being reasonable will only prolong their suffering. Helene can help. Esh turns away. I'm done with this. You're risking this entire supply run just by being here. She walks back to the bay and starts checking the straps in the crates. I go next cycle. We don't need you anymore. Get out. Sleeper, Pete looks torn. You have to understand. This is personal for Esh. I know. Pete looks away, then at Esh. I don't know, Sleeper. I just don't know what to do. Glance around the Bay of Briar. The walls seeming closer every second, the whole thing closing in on you, and the question is, where do you want to be when it all collapses? You look at Peak. What do you think, Sleeper? Peak rubs their forehead. Should we do this thing, or not? Well, like, the obvious question really is, how important is that food and water to them? How important is not the right term. How vital is it? And I guess we don't know. We are left with imperfect knowledge. And that's the way it has to be. That's the way it is in real life. I am empathetic. I feel that we should go with this. Peak nods. Okay then. They squeeze your shoulder. Onward. Slip away to help Esh, leaving you alone to replay the conversation in your head. A certain kind of grim determination settling in the room. Last chance to prepare. Interesting that it didn't update that. And we can do this with hundos, so... Not that it matters. Even a neutral reaction, 3 neutral reactions wouldn't have changed anything. Pete grins as you pile the ion thruster sets onto the motorized trolley in a derelict loading bay. Borrowed this from Ash. Barely know how it works. They seem giddy at the idea of stealing the ship parts from Haven Age. Isn't it just a trolley? Peak laughs. I guess so. I just find physical technology a bit intimidating. They help you heave the thruster into position. My specialty was computer systems. I mostly worked on keeping the protocols that ran the refueling platforms from totally decaying due to lack of use. Yeah, this is sounding even more and more like this is our author insert. There's a lot of platforms in orbit of the moon Hawthorne's on and Cinder itself. Esh and I ended up having to head out to them regularly to work on them. Sounds like hard work. Are you kidding? Peak smiles. That was the best job at Hawthorne. You get assigned a ship, you get to leave the colony for a bit. So much better than outpost maintenance or canteen work. The only reason we got assigned it was that Esh's mother's the administrator of Hawthorne, and Esh managed to get my name on the list too. Peak looks for the trolley's ignition. Esh is always saving me. They find the switch and hit it, and the trolley starts whining. Peak looks at the thrusters. Esh will install these. The Briar's her baby, really. Peak looks toward the bay exit. Truth be told, I was surprised she could bring herself to take it from her mother. Losing a ship? That has to have hurt the colony. How many ships does Hawthorne has? 4. Well, 3 now that Climbing Briar's gone. Peak tucks their hair behind an ear. 1 barely runs, so imagine they'll have to reduce the number of fuel platforms they can actively maintain. Peak frowns for a second, then shakes their head. Anyway, screw 'em. Peak shuffles the trolley out of the bay into the corridor. They'll manage without the Briar. No choice. Peak smiles, and I have to admit, I'd love to have seen her face when she saw we had gone. Peak pauses. Don't tell Esh that. They walk on quietly, lost in their memories of Hawthorne. Okay, I think I can manage the rest. Peak brushes her hair out of their face. You've done more than enough this cycle. Peak looks over the thrusters. Once these are fitted, the Briar will handle better than ever. You might even get a thank you from Esh. Peak laughs. They head off into the corridor, the trolley whining its high-pitched whine. See you soon. Okay. So we have done everything. Let's grab a scrap. Hit up Minji for some food. Somewhere around here is the proper term. And use the scrap when we end cycle to keep us at 5 die. Five dice? I don't know. Can't believe Esh ended up lying about that. Yeah, we finished all that. Okay. So the interesting thing here is that even the neutral one is actually fine because that's +3 energy. Oh, I was thinking that it was... I'm dumb. I was thinking it was... What, the thing for... one of these. Not hugely important. But I think given that, I'm gonna toss both of these in here. With any luck, we'll be at 5 energy, but yeah. That was the expected outcome. We're actually still ahead on a condition for this, though. So that's not bad. She's gone, Sleeper. Peak is breathless and shaking. She started the run without us. Shit. Let's go. If we head to the cordon now, Peak starts back up the corridor. They turn back. She has to make it, Sleeper. She has to. A shiver runs down your spine. Ash, I hope you know what you're doing. So what are the things? Okay, so just the sidereal and the, and this. You arrive, frantic and anxious, at the Gordon. Peak is nowhere to be seen. Then you hear footsteps hammering on the metal stairway Lean's drone led you through before, the one that leads up to the observation deck. You leap up the stairs two at a time and make to the top, momentarily blinded by the light pouring into the observation deck. Sleeper, Peak emerges from the light. I know she's trying to protect me, but... It's okay, she chose. What about my choice, Sleeper? I'm not a child anymore. I can fight for myself. They turn away. There she is. Peak rushes to the wide window, climbing forward to catch a glimpse of the climbing briar's blue XPR livery against the black of the void. You spot the climbing briar, a glint of blue and white, sight at the red glare of a tug's light. The tug crew went with her. Peak smiles. I knew they'd keep their word. That'll help. Peak doesn't seem to hear you, but the idea of the crew backing Ash up makes you smile. Maybe this thing will work. You watch as Briar and its tug escort arc down towards the edge of the cordon, demarcated by red lights of the perimeter system. So far, so good. The Briar will just look like another refugee ship being escorted in the cordon, at least at a glance. Peak grips the rail as Ash reaches the edge of the cordon, that invisible net of sensors splayed between ships and drones. Now, let's hope the blind spot triggered. You think back to the mess of systems you had to wade through to set it up. The delicate contingencies you set up to trigger the sensor blackout at just the right moment. Without noise, without ceremony, the Briar slides through the cordon. You wait the flickering light of our alarm lights, the swarming of drones, but nothing. Just another cycle, just another ship. Ash is in. Both you and Peak let out the breath you've been holding and laugh. How'd she do it? Peak smiles, shaking their head. We did it. Peak smiles wider. Yes, we did. They laugh. You feel a little shaky from the tension, but Peak's ease helps you settle. Imagine Ash steely-eyed in the pilot seat of the Briar, searching for a place to dock. Maybe being stubborn has its advantages. You okay? Me? God damn it. So this has had a few more typos and punctuation issues. This one is the first one that kind of makes me sit there and goes, no, this one is actually bad. Because this one is me. This whole thing is Peak saying this. Peak literally says Peak size here. It happens. Me? Peak size. I think that took years off my life, but gotta hand it to Ash, she was right. You and Peak turn back to the window, looking for the Briar again amongst all those holes. The calm fading as new worries settle in. You spot the Briar first this time, docking with the largest of flotilla ships. A vast converted tanker, half of its protective plates removed. Think about the effort it must have taken to get that thing all the way here from the inner system. You watch the Briar, unable to get any sense of progress from its placid exterior. They'll be offloading everything now, Peak says, both assuring you and themselves that everything is going to plan. You think of all the supplies loaded onto the Briar, how long the process of unloading them might take. The bay was packed, rammed with everything you could offer, and the thought of bringing all that to the flotilla makes you smile. Think of the reaction of the refugees and the welcome they'll give Ash as the bearer of such gifts. Even imagine a smile from Ash as she's showered with thanks. You focus on that as you watch the Briar, and continue the nervous wait for it to finish unloading. It's breaking off, Peak points at the Briar. You see that the puff of air and dust that accompanies an emergency depressurization. Ash must have ended things early. But why? Then you see them, the tugs closing in on the Briar. Haven Age must have spotted the ship. You and Peak are up against the window again. willing the Briar a safe path out of the flotilla. Suddenly, the Briar shifts in space, a blue blur between two holes. Peak whistles. They smile at you. Looks like those upgrades we put together work. You watch as Esh cuts through the crowded flotilla, the tugs not daring to follow her dangerous path, peeling away. It's hard to keep track of the Briar, and suddenly both you and Peak are searching for the black for a sign. Where's she gone? Then all of a sudden, she's out, blue against the back, pulling away from the cordon on a wide arc back towards the station. A clean run. Peak cheers and smiles at you. We did it! She's out! They beam uncontrollably at you, tension released. You find yourself smiling, too. Smiling at these two beautiful idiots and their beautiful ship. Then Peak is hugging you, squeezing you with all the nervous energy that had been building. Thank you, Sleeper. We did this together. They step back, still smiling. We did something. Come on, they rush out of the observation deck. Let's meet her. I do find it kind of amusing, ultimately, that unless there are more, or I may have, inadvertently locked myself on some of them, we can't get enough points to upgrade everything. No, admittedly, I didn't fuck around too much with this stuff. There may be more that I never... I'm certainly not seeing it if there is. But I would assume that, we would end up with a full set of stats on that. You and Peak rush into the Briar, finding yourselves in the now empty bay. The change is a reminder of what you achieved, and looking around, you feel all the more satisfied. A hiss sounds at the far end of the bay, and Esh enters, looking exhausted. Peak runs up to embrace her, but she sits down on the bay floor before they can reach her. You did it, they sit beside her. Esh, you were incredible. She smiles a small smile at this, laying her head on Peak's shoulder. Suddenly feel like you're intruding, seeing the two of them like this, quiet and content. Sleeper, Peak calls. Come on over. You cross the bay and sit beside them on the hard metal floor. Esh, Peak asks, did you give the flotilla our chairs? They both burst out laughing at the ridiculousness of it all, at the exhaustion and the worry and everything else. You laugh too, it's impossible not to, and after a while you all come to a stop, Peak wiping their eyes and Esh shaking her head. You would have loved to see it, Sleeper, Esh says quietly, the welcome I got. They came to greet the ship once I docked, offload the supplies. I told them I was coming, of course, as soon as I got inside the cordon, but there were so many, children, families, they were smiling at me, shaking my hand. Sol was there too, Peak, and he's just as gruff as he sounds over comms. She smiles. They took it all, crate after crate, until the ship was emptied out. Esh looks away, but there were so many. And even with everything we managed to bring, they needed more. They made me promise I would try to come back. Esh, Peak shakes their head. You know we can't do that twice. Esh stands up. What are we supposed to do? Wait for them to lift the quarantine? She's angry again, that familiar tension rising in her voice. Peak tries to pull her back down. Sit, Esh. Rest. You've done enough for today. Don't peek. I know my limits. Esh hardens. Okay, well. Seeing as they didn't catch you, perhaps they will lift it. They know the flotilla poses no danger now, and if they can account for the extra load on life support, Esh walks away towards the ladder that leads up into the upper part of the ship. I need to rest, Peak. She holds up a hand. Sleeper. Then she limps up the ladder, step by painful step. I'm afraid if you were expecting a change in Esh's demeanor, Peak smiled at you. It's okay. Let her rest. Peak nods. I think I need some rest too. Put a hand on your shoulder. Get up off the floor. We couldn't have done this without you, Sleeper. And I know those in the flotilla thank you too. Go rest. Peak limps up the ladder too, leaving you alone on the metal floor of the bay. Your thoughts drift to all those people on the flotilla, sleeping and sitting on metal floors like this. Children, families, playing in cargo bays and repurposed fuel tanks. You know their story isn't over yet, and you look forward to meeting them. The quarantine will lift. Feel more sure of this fact every moment, even though you weren't sure why. You lay back on the metal and stare at the ceiling. What was it Fang told you, Erlen said? The eye opens for us all? Maybe the old guy was right. Home for the lost. You like the idea that maybe in time, you can help make that a reality. But something is bothering you, a sliver of a thought like a splinter you can't extract. Why are thousands of refugees coming here now? People don't abandon their homes for nothing. What wave is rushing through the system, and when will it reach the eye? You shudder on the cold metal floor and get up. Something is coming. You can feel it. This isn't over. Okay. So the old Gathering Storm. I believe this is a 3-part episode thing. Or at least 3 have been done. Maybe it was 5-part. Yeah, if my memory was worth a shit, it would be real easy to remember. Actually, what I should do is grab a couple scrap components. Is this still the same one from before? It is. I'm going to use the 3 to work on the sidereal. And then I will... Oh man, we're actually closer to finish on this than I thought. Well, we're about to be finished with it as well. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be another credit sequence because it wouldn't... Well, okay, I don't know that this will be the end of this, but the end of this should be another credit sequence. Your crew slowly filters out of the shipyard locker room, the bubbling chatter reducing with each group that leaves. There's excitement in the air. Haven Age just made an announcement. The assembly teams are done. Sat on the locker room bench, you can feel the sidereal out there. Talking mass now intimately familiar to you. Over the past cycles, you've watched it grow, be assembled. You've walked through its veins and welded its bones. Now it's ready for the final stage. It'll go to testing now, then enter a final process of sealing and resealing, checking and rechecking before it's deemed suitable for its generational trip. But for now, your work is done. You can't help but feel proud. A cough interrupts your thoughts. It's Lem, changing out of his work gear. Mina nowhere to be seen. He smiles. She'll be ready soon. Where's Mina? You two are fast friends, huh? She's been watching home. Now I'm on the work team. I can afford a bit more help. Corrects himself. Was on the work team. I mean, we're all out of a job now. He quickly adds, not that I'm complaining. He comes to sit beside you on the bench. She's gonna be in her best shape when she carries you, Mina and me, out of here. But she's gotta be in her best shape. So confident? Lem smiles apologetically. Why not? I figure I'm due a lucky turn by now. He rubs his hand nervously. No use in wondering what if. Until the draw, anyway. And there's a few cycles till then. Lem is right. But the odds seem unlikely anyway. I mean, how many are working in the shipyard? Hundreds? 1,000? You've certainly seen more faces than you can count pass through. And are the Sealess Foundation even going to keep their promise? Out here, on the Eye, you get the sense no one will hold them to it. Why else would they be building the sidereal in a surrogate system? As you think, Lem watches you with a worried look. Tell me about Sealess. Foundation? He thinks. I'm not sure I know much more than you. I hear they have a planet in mind for the sidereal. Something temperate and habitable. I think they're run by some rich folk from the core, people interested in doing things different. The core? Lem gives you a funny look. Yeah, the core. He smiles. I guess people don't talk much about it out here, but it's the center of everything, if you believe that sort of thing. The star systems were surrogate too. He shrugs. We work so they don't have to. Ah. I'd rather keep my mind on the prize, so to speak. I don't much care for what they're for or against as long as they can help us get out of here. He sighs. You ever been in a thunderstorm, Sleeper? A real big one? I don't remember. Lem shoots you a worried look for a moment. It's something else, he smiles. The sound, the smell, the rain hammering down. The whole sky stretched out and bruised, roaring and huge. The place I was born, New Pembroke, a dry old rock in Conway Systems, had 2 seasons. One of them was dry as bone, dusty, ugly. The other was one long storm, a side effect of the terraforming effects, they said. Rain used to rattle off the roofs like bullets. It washed the dust away, turned the streets to rivers. It'd sing us to sleep and wake us in the morning. We'd wait half a year just to see it again. The best day was the one where the first drops fell. He sniffs. Some days I wake up swearing I can hear it again. I was thinking, Mina's never seen a storm, never even felt rain. She's grown up here, the ring her only horizon, always in the dark. I want to change that for her. You will. Of course, almost there. Lem stands, stretching. Best get back to the little one anyway. With the shifts done, I reckon she'll be happy to have me home for a few cycles. He shoulders his gear. See you in a few for the draw? I'll be there. No, good luck. Don't need it, he grins. Lem leaves, making you the last person in the cavernous locker room. As you sit, you think about rain and a little hope creeps in. Is it possible? Could the Sidero really take you to a planet, a place with weather, with skies, with life? You get up quickly before you can think about it anymore. It's too soon to hope, too dangerous. There's work to be done. Okay, so that's also on a long cycle clock. God damn it. Okay. Since we still have 2 more cycles to wait through. Wow. What are the fucking odds of that one? So what? I mean, that's... one in 6 to the 5th. Sorry, I was coughing for a second, then decided to actually think about it. Low. Low is what those odds are. Well, let's toss one of them into Minji's. The result of this thus does not matter. High or low. And we're fine for a while. Yeah, next one we have some concerns, but for now we're golden. Since we got another 5, let's toss that into the wastes. We have more scrap and stabilizer than we really know what to do with. Okay, so that can take us to full condition. That is good to know. Also, I find it amusing that the sunbathe perk is basically the same as Min G's stuff. I think down to using the same exact fucking stat. It hits you like a wave, a wide-edged breaker roaring inland with the force of the entire ocean. The impact is a screaming brightness, blanking out everything. Behind it is silence. You float in silence, suspended. No, you do not float. You are the silence. It's filled you up. It's emptied you out. You cease to exist. Time passes, though you do not feel it passing. Then something flickers in the silence, and then something moves. That something is also you. You open your eyes to a metal ceiling of flickering lights. You feel the floor around you, patting it with shaking hands. You assemble an image of yourself lying on your back in a corridor. You shake off the silence, and you sit up. What was that? You glance around, looking for a sign of some change. Damage on the walls, shouts in the distance, fire, and fear. But nothing's changed. The silence sits around you like a fog. You try to think, furrowing your brow. How do you think again? It doesn't seem so easy anymore. You force the pathways to light up, the databanks to grant access. You feel like a fraction drive starting up after a long shutdown in cold vacuum. And the wave was noise. Just as the sound produced by a wave raking across a pebble beach represents trillions of impacts heard as a single roar, so this sound was the result of trillions of electrons flickering in place heard as a single, impossible scream. A memory or image comes to you, one from moments before the wave hit. You squint as you imagine it, trying to hear its blurry form. A broken, skeletal ring, the eye, and then a vast arc approaching it. A razor-edged white curve. The wave. The wave approaches the eye. The eye spins, turning each part to face that vast white edge. You recognize their skeletal data cloud forms. The bright market, the low end, the greenway, the wastes. Then the wave hits just as the flotilla, the cordon turns to face it. And after that, everything is silence. You open your eyes again. That is the epicenter. But of what? Even before you reach the cordon, the damage is obvious. The blinking red lights, the drones, the tugs, all are gone. Half the cordon's frame has also been shorn away, perhaps through the impact of some failing ship. People push past you into the corridor, both the Haven Age staff and contractors, clearing the cordon. You push through the flow of people, and despite a few suspicious looks, they offer no resistance. The further you pass into the cordon, the less people you see. You can see a few sections have been closed off, their bulkhead doors sealed and red warning lights punctuating the corridors. But otherwise, most areas seem functional. Suddenly you feel a hand fall on your shoulder. Haven Age security? You should have known better than to wander into this place. You brace yourself as you turn. Sleeper! Peek's wide eyes greet you as you turn. The cordon. They glance around, panicked. It's gone down. The Briar and Esh are still in there. Do you think she did this? Or perhaps Haven Age messed up? They start pulling you towards the edge of the cordon. We should find her. What if it wasn't her or Haven Age? Peek stops. What are you saying? Something hit the station. Peek looks incredulous. Hit. Sleeper, we'd all be dead if that was the case. They pause to think. Maybe not an object, but a shockwave? A signal? An EMP would have taken out most of the station, but... Peek runs a hand through their hair. I don't know what you're saying, Sleeper. That doesn't sound... They looked away down the corridor for a moment. Look, I have to find Esh. I'm sure you felt something, but we can talk about that later. They set off down the corridor. I can't sit around talking anymore. Find me on the flotilla. I'm going to find a way to Esh no matter what. With that, they rush away into the depths of the cordon, leaving you behind. Seems like you'll need to follow if you want to get any answers. So we will. So, good thing I was, definitely forewarned on this and definitely not just being greedy. Fuckers. Wait, what? Oh. I got confused for a sec. But before we do any of that, it's so weirdly quiet. Well, I guess it is the Greenway. It's not weirdly quiet. It's just quiet. And of course, the one that we actually have the stats for is the... Oh, hey, we have 2 upgrade points. Let's toss it in here on the very off chance we ever get fucking 3 more points. We've hit systems more than anything, especially those on the ship, so there's 1,000 tiny repair jobs to be done. I know I've not said these out loud, I've read them, because, I mean, they're fucking like 3 lines, but... Your Budo tanker's proximity controls keeping it from drifting into other ships. The occupants are impressed, and won't stop thanking you. Getting necessary supplies to each ship to meet their needs is a huge task. Joining the hauling team is the simplest thing you can do to help. Shifting ships, systems, and social structures. The only way to navigate the flotilla is by rolling up your sleeves and helping out. You run some water out to a struggling farming ship on the flotilla's edge. They're so pleased they reward you with some freshly cooked produce. That's actually nice. A bit of energy is always a positive. And actually, indeed, the getting energy is far better than... Did we even get anything from this? I don't think we did. Okay, so we have Soul and we have Peek. Let's talk to Soul first. Someone told me I should be thanking you. The voice comes from behind you, cutting through the chaos of the crowded cavernous bay. You freeze. Don't be afraid now. I've been hunting you, sure, but for all the best reasons. You turn to see bright eyes set in a rough face, framed in rusted metal. Soul. He holds out his hand. the other clamped firmly around a knotted wooden cane. Shake his hand. He grips you firmly with a heavy and calloused hand. Forgive me. As soon as I saw you, I knew who you were. The frame's interesting. I like the additional arm, but something is bugging me about his hands. Like they look swollen rather than anything else. I think that's just the way I'm seeing the art rather than anything else. He grips you firmly with a heavy and calloused... Oh, okay, yeah, I said that. Soul puts a hand on your shoulder. I've been told a sleeper was part of that supply run that came in several cycles ago. He nods. A very welcome act, and we all thank you for it. Walk with me, sleeper. Soul sets off through the bay, his partial suit hissing and creaking as it helps carry him through the busy crowds. You notice people making way for you in the Soul, standing back and letting you pass. You pass a makeshift kitchen, steaming pots on heating elements, a restless queue collecting meals. That algae that came through isn't exactly a full meal, but with what we have here, we've been able to make it work. You see a ladle of a greenish stew dished out. That color is something, isn't it? Soul smiles. Soul leads you out of the larger bay into a corridor lined with storage rooms that are now serving as dorms. You see someone filling a metal container from a standpipe, water gushing out of it readily. Soul nods to the person as he passes. Just a little further now. Soul leads you into a freight elevator, whistles to some unseen operator to start it up. Jerks into life, and as you pass through the layers of the ship, you see people on every level, supplies crammed into every available space, and sparks leaping in bursts as the ship is reshaped and modified to sustain its population. If Haven Age were expecting an exodus from the flotilla, the Flux event has put a stop to that. Soul stretches. Some have crossed to the eye, but many just to gather salvage or score a hot meal. So the pressure on our supplies is shrinking, but not like I'd hoped. With the Flux reaching all the way out here, people are starting to understand that our journey might not be over. Soul stares grimly ahead. Suddenly the freight elevator screeches to a halt, and Soul leads you slowly out into a wide room of chairs and terminals, ringed by a mezzanine and with a glass roof above showing the distant hub. In the far curve of the eye beyond, the people at the terminals nod to him as he enters. This is your ship? Soul nods. That's right. This pilgrim seed is mine to care for. He leads you up to a railed platform at the center of the room and stops. She chose me, so to speak. Well, at least her crew did, and I do my best to serve them. Soul looks around the bridge of the ship, a pained expression on his face. I'll admit that the responsibility isn't one that suits me, though we rarely get to choose such things. He glances back at you. You, Sleeper, from what I understand, you chose to try to help us here. Is that right? I was helping my friends. Soul nods. Of course, must be some fine friends. But I have to ask you, Sleeper, why are you here now? Soul leans back, and you feel his eyes on you, assessing you. The Flux event. I appreciate the honesty. I'd figured as much. Soul flexes a shoulder that's free of the suit. Looking at you now, I can see that an event like that, well, it would have had a big impact. He smiles a big smile. Half smile. I have tens of thousands of people here on the Pilgrim Seed, Sleeper, and there's tens of thousands more out in the flotilla. He leans against a railing. A lot of them are looking at me provide some future for them. Some path out of this dead end we've got into. And this cycle, this very cycle, the thing we've been running from, it just caught up with us. So these people are scared, Sleeper, and they're looking for me for reassurance. And then on the same cycle, someone tells me they see you on board. A Sleeper, the same Sleeper they reckon that wanted so strongly to send a ship past the cordon to see us. Soul scratches at his beard. So the first thing I wanted to do was thank you for that, for your interest. He pauses. The second thing I wanted to do was find out what you want from us. Soul's suit hisses and creaks. I think that's fair, don't you? Soul takes a deep breath. So what is it? Tell me about the Flux. Someone at the terminal calls out to Sol, and he shouts some orders back. He turns to you. Apologies. He smiles that half smile. I'll tell you what, Sleeper. Let's you and me make a deal. You want information, and I understand that. But I have a list of needs longer than the rim of the eye itself. So you do some things for me, and we can talk about what's been happening in this system, and I'll answer your questions, and then some. I may be the captain of the Pilgrim Seed, and she's certainly the biggest ship in the flotilla, but I'm not the only captain here. We have ships here from each of the moons. Ember's Earth, just like us. But plenty more from Ember's Song, and even Ember's Step. The moons have been at each other's throats, Sleeper. What with the pressure of the flux, the bad blood from the old days, Solinson, we aren't exactly all in alignment. What I need is a way to stop things from escalating, for the crews on these ships and their captains to feel happy and comfortable enough to forget old rivalries and past crimes. He flinches at something. Those from Ember Step, well, they've always been proud, but that pride seems to be a barrier to compromise right now. The last set of supplies I sent their way, they refused. Meanwhile, as the supply shuttle at the docking axis that Ember's Song ships gather at, they've taken far too many cycles to unload. Maybe if you're heading that way, you can look in on them. I'm no politician, Sleeper, but if I don't... Sol stops. He leans back and flexes, his suit screeching. He groans a little, and you see the weight of the flotilla sitting on his shoulders. The suit, the only thing keeping him vertical beneath all that pressure. Look, you'll see for yourself if you go. Meet the other Sleeper. See what they need. Keep them aligned. He speaks through the pain, his voice clipped. Are you okay? Not really, but as long as this thing holds, he grimaces. I hope. Sol grits his teeth. You are what you appear to be, Sleeper. He smiles his half smile despite the pain. Because I'm not sure I can take any more bad news. Plus, there's plenty to be done here on the Pilgrim Seed too. If you have a moment to pitch in, there's never enough around here. That's something I've learned the hard way. Hard way. Sol settles onto his cane, the pain visibly receding. Alright. I have 1,000 things to attend to now, Sleeper. So you'll have to find your own way out. And with that, Sol sits at his terminal with slow and careful movements. You head back down the freight elevator, and as you do, you see again the layers and layers of chaotic life this vessel and all the vessels of the flotilla hold. Okay. So what is our task here? Oh, shit. I see. As you walk into the bay of the Climbing Briar, the familiarity of the space overcomes any trepidation. Feels good to be back, and the return feels earned, especially after all the work it took to figure out a route through the flotilla's jumble of ships that might lead you to this blue streak. You see Esh and Peak immediately, sitting at the back of the bay, deep in conversation. Their closeness causes you to stop, suddenly aware that you might be interrupting something private. Peak is gesturing wildly as Esh stares out in the middle distance, hunched over. As Peak tries to get her attention, she spots you. Sleeper, Esh nods. Didn't quite turn out like we hoped, right? Peak stops and glances between the two of you, tensions rising. I'm sorry. Esh waves your apology away. None of that. We all had our part to play. Peak looks nervous. It has worked out, they appeal to you. The Flux event knocked the entire Cordon system offline. The flotilla is free, and Haven Age are backing off. That's not necessarily a good thing. In this case, Esh stands. I have to agree with Sleeper. The Flux may have brought me my freedom, but the cost for the flotilla's systems is significant, and if Haven Age weren't panicked enough... Esh glances off into the distance. What's exactly happening? Hard to tell. It's some kind of disruptive wake that only affects electrical systems, Peak chips in. Typically, systems are screened against radiation and interference out here anyway, but this seems to be dulled, but not stopped by those defenses. The crisis continues. Esh sighs. The Cordon may be down, but this brings a whole other set of problems. Should tell them, Esh. He glances at her. Please. Esh doesn't respond. Tell you what, You stare at her back, waiting for a response. Please, Esh, haven't they shown they can be trusted? Peak nods toward you. Esh turns, her arms folded tightly against her chest. She goes to start and then stops. You can see the anger in her eyes, but you realize it's not directed at you or at anyone else. She's angry with herself. I brought weapons to the flotilla, she pauses, and now they're gone. You suddenly remember the sleek crates that were tucked into the bay, marked with a yellow sigil. The ones Esh told you were just supplies. What do you mean gone? What do you think? Someone lifted them from the ship's bay while I was unloading the supplies. She sniffs. At least they're in the hands of the flotilla now. Maybe. Peak looks at you. She knows this was a bad move, Sleeper. I promise you. He glances back at her. She's just proud to admit it. Where did you get them from? XPR? Ash gestures around the ship. I wasn't about to leave the colony armed when we escaped. I wouldn't trust them. I wasn't about to leave the colony armed when we escaped. I wouldn't trust them not to use it on us. Peak sighs. I didn't know a thing about them, which is why Ash is going to be the one to find them and bring them back. Shouldn't we help? Ash turns. It's okay, Sleeper. I don't want anyone getting mixed up in this. This is my responsibility. Oh no. If we don't fucking get involved, this sounds like a good way for Ash to fucking die. Plus, Peak adds, you and I have work to do. I want to understand the Flux, Sleeper, to study it. This thing is changing the entire system, causing problems across the inner system and driving refugees off Ember's moons. And now it's here. If we don't do something about it, Peak pauses. It's a problem for all of us. I can see more immediate problems, Ash sniffs. Peak ignores her. I've been looking at the networks, and when the Flux event hit, it changed things. Shuffled systems, corrupted nodes, and broke open data stores. They take out a slate and show you a flickering polygon. Some of these Flux nodes have appeared near the epicenter of the event, but I can't get access. You, however, I saw the way you worked with data when we were preparing for the run. I think you can get into these things. I want you to find a Flux node and bring me anything you can extract. They come and go, but most can be found in the barely functioning networks of the waste. Peak pauses. Start there. Perhaps together we can find something that might point us to what the Flux is and where it comes from. Okay. They smile. I knew you'd agree. Ash looks indignant. Don't waste too much time chasing ghosts, Sleeper. There are people on the flotilla that need any help they can get. I'm sure the Sleeper can do both, Ash. Peak smiles at you. I'll see you here when you have something. Good hunting. And they wave you out as Ash stomps away to make plans of her own. Okay. So what, 3? Oh, we don't know how many. Interesting. It's a strange sight, given your time spent in the Greenway, to see a greenhouse choked in red dust. It piles up along edges, gathers in curving waves, and is carried by some unseen wind to whirl in front of the glass ceiling. It's a desert in miniature, captured landscape of iron-rich sediment and unseen life. Beautiful, isn't it? The remark comes from another figure standing in the viewing window, so quietly that you hadn't noticed them. Did they just arrive? Or were they here before you were? Their cloth-swaddled form reveals little. Catch a glimpse of a pale face among the thick material, dark eyes glittering in the red reflected light. They turn to you as the dust swirls. Aki, they smile, a tight smile. You are not from the flotilla, am I right? I'm not from anywhere. Everyone is from somewhere, whether they wish to be or not. The red dust glitters in her eyes, whether it is a good place to be from or not. Aki gathers her clothes. God damn it. Aki gathers her cloak around her shoulders against the cold. What brings you to the wind's long shadow? Soul sent me. Aki doesn't respond. She looks absent-mindedly at the dust. You are a strange one, Aki raises an eyebrow. I don't know whether to report you or send you back to where you came from. She smiles to herself. Which is nowhere at all. You glance around the empty corridor, suddenly aware of how quiet it is on the ship. Unlike other ships you've been on the flotilla, there's a silent order to the wind's long shadow, and in this moment, it feels unsettling. What happened here? Aki squints. That is a broad question, and I am not in the mood to recount the history of this ship or Step. Step? Aki turns away, irritated, eager to change the subject. You hear a creak as a set of shutters slowly begin to close across the glass ceiling of the greenhouse. As you watch, you feel the dissonance this place has with that word. There's nothing green here. A dust house, perhaps? It takes many systems to preserve this landscape, to simulate the wind, cycle the dust, layer the sand and dirt beneath. You watch the dust swirling. Systems that are failing. The flux of it. Aki glances at you for a sign of recognition at this term. Is eroding our ability to keep this place alive. To keep these traces of Step alive. Oh, Ember's Step. I'm dumb. Even fucking says Ember's Step right there. And has a fucking new line there to emphasize Step. God damn it. She smiles to herself. Which is ironic, because when we left Step, the flux had eroded our ability to survive on the moon. Now the situation's reversed. Away from the moon, its ecosystems are as fragile as we were living upon it. Something catches your eye as the shutters darken the dust house. The winds picking away at the dune begin to reveal something. A web, a network of thick branching forms, and then they close completely. And you see nothing in the dark. Soft blue lights flicker on in the corridor, uplighting Aki in cold cyan. I do wish that the lighting on the picture would change for this, but I understand that that would be a lot of work. Or at least more money to get the artist to do it. You've piqued my curiosity, but I'm so tired, Aki shivers. If you don't have a purpose here on the ship, I recommend finding someone. Otherwise, I'm afraid you'll need to leave. Make yourself useful and perhaps we'll get another chance to talk. She turns. I'd like that. With that, Aki pads away along the corridor. You stand for a moment in front of the dark dust house, trying to imagine the network of roots under the sand and dust, and then trying to imagine the moon that once housed them. Okay. Interesting. This is called unfinished business. So yeah, that's the, those are the people who, don't want any help. Wait, what? What? Oh. The Sidereal. No? Oh, Lemon Mina. Sorta related to the Sidereal. The crowds have already gathered by the time you get to the shipyard. You recognize faces among them. People you worked alongside on the Sidereal. The intervening cycles have turned their excitement to anxiety. Few of them smile at you. Instead, the nervous energy of the crowd fills the space, creating a feedback loop of growing tension. You pick out Lem and Mina and work your way over to them. Pushing through the crowd, he silently raises his eyebrows at you, his anxiety obvious. But Mina flashes you a huge smile, unaware of the tension. "Robot!" she shouts, reaching out to you. Hug her. She gratefully accepts your hug, leaning against your chest, and Lem smiles, seemingly glad to share the weight of Mina for a moment. Quite the turnout, huh? Lem glances around, pulling Mina close. I don't think patience is one of this crowd's strengths. The sound of an argument towards the back catches your and Lem's attention. He's putting it lightly. This place seems set to explode. This isn't good. Lem doesn't dare answer, but the look in his eyes suggests he agrees. This is Aster Enghart of the Sealess Foundation. The announcement echoes from the speakers at the shipyard entrance, and shouts of quiet rapidly follow. I'm sorry I can't be there to meet you all, and thank you, on behalf of Sandre Silas, for the work you have done on the sidereal horizon. Most of the crowd strains to see Aster's face, but the small display shows only a ghostly white figure, smudged and unclear. Sandre wants me to pass on her personal thanks for your commitment to, and belief in, the Silas Foundation's mission. We chose the Eye for this project because we knew that we would find like-minded individuals here, especially among the ranks of the venerable Haven Age Association. Unlike most of the Corps, we neither believe Erland's Eye to be a threat or a rogue state, but instead an embryo for the formation of a new, decentralized social structure. Oh god, they're fucking crypto people. One where each citizen might be the master of their own destiny. A ripple of impatience runs through the crowd. They didn't come here for a sermon. You are all pioneers, just like those core citizens who the sidereal horizon will carry, in cryosleep, to the planet that will become the Foundation's first frontier world, Silas 1. At the mention of the destination world, excited conversations break out among the workers. There, our citizens will be able to create their own innovative, bottom-up economic order, aligned with the principles set down by Sandre Silas herself: freedom, resilience, and self-sustenance. This is all thanks to your tireless efforts in the Haven Age Yards. As a reward for those efforts, you may know that we are offering a select group the opportunity to join the caretakers of this vision, the staff of the Sidereal Horizon who will maintain the vessel during its multi-decade transit through interstellar space. Lem turns to you, his eyes bright. This is it. This draw has been performed at random by central AIs of the Foundation and is final and binding. Please note, only licensed contractors of the Foundation are eligible for this draw. I know you have all been eagerly awaiting this day, and without further delay, I will now read the Celis identification numbers of those chosen for this great honor. A murmur runs through the crowd. Celis identification numbers? Licensed contractors? You never even heard the term mentioned. Is this something you were supposed to be assigned? You glance at Lem, but his eyes are fixed forward, wide and shimmering. All around you, people are speaking in hushed tones like a rising wave. Aster starts reading out sequences of numbers and letters, and panic begins to set in. No one seems to know what's happening. Somewhere near the front of the crowd, someone shouts in celebration, and everyone pushes forward. Lem? You turn to see Lem still staring forward. Mina's scared now as the shouts start. Daddy? Someone throws something at the entrance and it rattles against the shipyard doors. You see, for the first time, Haven Age security stood on either side, scared, arguing between themselves. You feel the anger rising in the crowd. Lem, let's go. He doesn't move. They might call out names. I can't. Mina tugs at his dog tags. It's not happening. Lem blinks rapidly and then turns to you. He opens and closes his mouth and looks down at Mina. He sees the fears in her eyes and understands. It's time to go. You lead Lem and Mina out, shoving people aside. As you do, you hear the sound of scuffles emerging at the front of the crowd, with metal canisters bouncing off the shipyard walls. You keep your head down and walk away, the sound of Aster reading off the ciphers echoing above the chaos like some strange mantra. When you turn to Lem, there are tear tracks running down his cheeks and Mina sniffling into his jacket. You feel the sadness rising in you, too. They screwed you, screwed all of you. You were never even on the list. The feeling is as unpleasant as it is familiar. You stare ahead into the tunnel as the security sirens sound out, a signal for the coming violence. Well, shit. I wonder if there's something we could have done to, have that not turn out so fucking shitty. So, first question. Does this go down everything? Nope. I am curious. Oh, I bet because of our giving those supplies, this is started halfway up. Of course, we got clubhead caps. What is it? We need 2 for a thing of stabilizer. So what does that give? Plus. Not awful. I think because this is relatively easy, let's finish this up. There's a loose crowd around the supplies you've unloaded and a tense mood brewing among them. You sit nearby on the edge of the shuttle's docking tunnel, resting. Further away, crews from Ember's Song continue their lives as usual, coming and going, trading and discussing. There's a quiet efficiency to the hub, set up as common space for the swarm of small ships from Ember's Song that are part of the flotilla. Unlike Hearth or Steppe, there's no one capital ship for the moon's refugees, just a mass of individuals traveling in concert. We told Hearth we didn't want their scraps. The jeering voice comes out of the small crowd nearby. Turn to see a gaunt, pale man wearing the industrial work gear you've seen many of the Song refugees wearing. You hear me? Supplies are to help. He smirks. Oh, how noble of you, coming out here to help us singers. There's a rumble of anger around the crowd. We agreed to join the flotilla for joint protection. We did not agree to Ember's Hearth using the flotilla to secure their control of the moon. You realize Peter is addressing the crowd as much as he is addressing you. The cordon down, our crews are more than able to acquire what is needed from the Eye. What is owed is restitution for keeping us restrained. He pats one of the crates you unloaded. What we need, we will take. Okay, so when all the fucking Song ships get shot down, I will shed no tears, is what I'm getting out of this. Sol wants to cooperate. Sol is a farmer. Even the people of Song know that he was simply the sole survivor of Hearth's leadership. His authority means nothing. Pater looks at the crowd. Hearth thinks they can buy us, but we remember the past. Rumble agreement runs through the crowd. He smiles at them. Take the supplies if you wish, of course. We are not wasteful. Peter approaches you directly. The crowd tentatively moves forward, and by the time he reaches you, already dragging away crates and distributing the contents. I'm not one for shooting the messenger, Sleeper, says Peter as he approaches. I cannot concede to Hearth here, not for a moment. And leave me the fuck out of it. Man! It's neat seeing Ethan all over again. Where's our fucking gun? Peter sits beside you on the docking tunnel's lip. What was your plan, Sleeper? Unload the supplies and wait for someone to start throwing them back at you? Nods at crowd rifling through crates, because that was what was about to happen. Not sure about that. What do you think happened to the crew of this shuttle? They were chased out of this place. Yeah, and you see, what I want to ask is, why are you all such pieces of shit? Why are you so anti-fucking getting any fucking thing given to you? That's horse shit. That is fucking horsecock. And you can fucking... At this point, I don't give a shit. Peter's a piece of shit. A little is the same as nothing. I'm going to assume you know the basics. Oh, I guess I should say, do you know anything about Ember's Moonsleeper, or were you planning to wander in the flotilla totally blind, an objective outsider offering help? I'm going to assume you know the basics. Cast Giant Ember has 7 moons. 3 biggest are Ember's Step, Ember's Song, where everybody's a piece of shit, and Ember's Heart. He winks. We can cover the 4 sisters next session. Step was the first to be settled. Contract old Solheim gave to terraformers Sibel Systems when they first claimed the Helion system, way back when. Step was a testing ground. Like most testing grounds, it didn't turn out too well. Partial atmosphere slowly sloughing off each orbit, dysfunctional ecosystem, and a whole load of dust-clogged settlers. The place is a miserable desert long past its best before date. So Sibel moved to Hearth, where they redoubled their efforts. Subsurface oceans and balmy tidal heating helped, allowing them to build a real atmosphere, a real habitable world. Fact that the typical Hearth colonist won't ever let you forget. How did Sibel achieve such a thing, you might wonder? Well, that's where we come in, same old role of surrogacy. The one humanity built our universe around. Vader clasps a hand to his chest in mock pride. My moon, Ember's Song, is a sulfur-soaked rock covered in volcanoes, tidally heated by its inner orbit to sweltering temperatures. Exactly the kind of crucible you need to fuel a terraforming project. Energy, industry, fuel. Song provided the wrong materials for Hearth, willingly or not. And a crucible requires people to run it. As singers. Singers, maybe. Born into a flaming pit and asked to stoke it so others might live in a paradise in the making. But we had to endure until Solheim brought everything down. He rattles off the speech from memory, and you wonder how many times he's delivered it. And how many times he has fucking probably beaten people up over it. No Solheim, no contract. No contract, no Sibel. No Sibel meant 3 moons suddenly independent. It was a war sleeper, sometimes hot, sometimes cold, and unsurprisingly, Hearth and Step came out of it better than us. Yet, Peter holds up a hand, they need a sleeper, always have. And so we're in the linchpin. We're the center around which the moons orbit, not swirling ember. We resisted takeovers, sieges, and expansions, and now we'll resist this. Half the people in this ship think the flux was caused by Hearth, intentionally or otherwise, and I have to say, some cycles I agree. So before you come out here to hand out supplies like a good soldier, maybe educate yourself. But you abandoned Song. I want you to imagine what it's like to try to live on an airless volcanic rock when every system that sustains you starts shutting down. Spits and wipes a sleeve across his mouth. We abandoned nothing. Some stayed, others left. We will reclaim Ember as soon as the flux fades or ends. We've weathered worse. The flotilla should be united. Have you been listening? We don't want to be united. Being united by Hearth means living under them. I won't keep you from the docking axis, Sleeper. No one here has the authority to that, but watch yourself here. Try to remember that the Eye is just another in the long list of people who have tried to control us. Stubbornness, I've found, is a quality in these times. Yeah, well, what I've found is that you're a giant piece of shit. And worse than that, kind of irredeemably a piece of shit. You don't... unapologetically a piece of shit. Peter sighs. Look, we're many, and we have many needs. Ships come to this docking axis for repairs, for requisitions, for friendship. Provide these as well as any singer. If you want to help in your own name, Sleeper, not in that of Hearth. Peter shakes his head. Carry that name here, and you will lose all trust. Be as we are. Act in your own name alone. Except you're demonstrably acting in Sing's name. In Song's name. This is a fucking do what I say, not what I do. Go fuck yourself, Peter. I hope we have a chance to fucking burn your ships. Hope I didn't just waste my time here, Sleeper. And with that, he walks away, back to the shrinking crowd that is distributing the last of the supplies among the crews present. We watch them pass the food and water between them, no sign of conflict between the crews, just a careful distribution of resources. Peter chats with a few crews, each of them casting looks in your direction, ones that reveal little about the singer's intentions. You stand. It seems the tensions of Flotilla run much deeper than you expected. This won't be easy. Yeah, can I just fucking ignore the fucking one of them? I know the answer's no. Dang. Oh, wait. Dang. That happens way too fucking often. I'm just gonna roll a fucking scrap component. The way it removed it was making me think that there was a what's it called? Event when we were leaving our sleeping quarters. Sleeper, come look at this. Peak is poring over one of the displays of the makeshift decoding suite they've set up in the Climbing Briar's cargo bay. On the screen, a clump of data pathways, like an ingrown root ball, has started to entangle. This is an existing node corrupted by the flux event. It's totally twisted up. They glance at you to check you're listening. But inside, you watch as the unwinding pathways leave behind patterns of negative spaces, like shadows staying behind despite their caster leaving. Is a whole other dataset. Peak's eyes shine bright in the pale screen light. The flux event somehow seeds this data deep into the gaps in the node, wrapping them around it. What's in there? Not sure, Peak frowns. It's not being very cooperative. You watch the screen. The pattern of shadows becoming obvious now as each layer of pathways is pulled away. The flux event itself really did a number on unprotected nodes like this. Most of the EI's systems are screened against radiation interference, but these exposed nodes? Peak makes a ripping motion with their hands, torn apart. Peak points to a thick tangle of threads on the screen. Look here. Look like it's been tangled purposefully, but actually, it's actually that all the points within the node have been randomly rearranged. It's as if the node was a bag of ball bearings and the flux shook them. The pathways tried to account for the rearrangement once the system came back on, hence the tangle. Peak pauses as the node continues to unwind. Although it was less like shaking a bag of ball bearings and more like making them all simultaneously occupy a superposition of every possible position in the bag before locking them back into a new configuration. They smile sheepishly, but that's a technicality. So what's the flux? You know it's a wave, one with exotic effects, that's all. Peak runs a hand through their hair. The question is not so much what flux is, but what's causing it, where's it coming from? Peak turns away from the screen, meeting your eye, and there's something else. They pause. Have you spoken with the refugees? Yeah. Peak lowers their voice instinctively. What they're reporting, massive systems failures, cascading collapses of life support, of terraforming systems, total data corruption. Peak swallows. The flux shouldn't do that. It can fundamentally rearrange the structure of systems, especially those poorly shielded. But totally collapsing heavy-duty industrial systems, failsafes and all? That doesn't make sense. Those kinds of systems are built for deep space, for solar flares, radiation. The flux might penetrate them, but any reconfiguration should have been repairable. Peak looks back at the screen where the decoding node lies almost fully open. A shadow pattern of the negative spaces that existed within it. Scrambled interior darkens the screen, like a set of bruises showing the pattern of the object that made them. I need to look into something. I have an idea of what might be causing this wave, triggering the flux, but I need time to research it. Can I help? Peak shakes their head. I'm sorry, Sleeper, but I want to keep this to myself for now. You need something to do, the flotilla could surely do with a help. From what I heard from Ash, things are tense here. Where's Ash? Peak glances around the bay. I must be out. I've been focusing on this, so I can't say I've noticed, although the quiet's nice. They smile. Give me some time, Sleeper. Peak turns back to their console. I'll have some answers soon. Soon enough, I hope. You take one glance at the uncoiling node as you leave. The dark shapes it leaves behind, somehow troubling. Try to shake them from your mind. There are things to be done elsewhere. That'll take a while. So this will presumably be either +2 or +3, so I got no real reason not to, especially while I'm getting good rolls. Yeah, I got no reason not to just do that. So the hearth is fine. Sol finds you deep in the layers of the Pilgrim Seed, working on a patch for a life support vent. You hear him coming, his suit hissing as he does. I had to ask around to find you. He smiles. Seems you know the place better than me these days. I doubt it. Sol nods. I was in the work crew that built this thing, so maybe you're right. He winks. Sol holds out a hand. Stand up and let me see you. He pulls you to your feet. I don't believe we ever had a sleeper on Ember's hearth. Sol looks you up and down. Sure do make me wish he had. Could have used with a few workers as good as you. Thank you. Sol nods. You're welcome. Seems like I owe you some answers, though, seeing as you've been working hard on the Pilgrim Seed these past cycles. Leans against his crate, his suit creaking. What do you want to know about? The flux. Sol sighs. That's what I imagined. He scratches at his beard. I can't say I'm an expert, but I can tell you what we witnessed on Hearth. At first, we ignored it. A few farms had their automation systems blink out. Lifter suits locked up and bots reset their schedules. Nothing we hadn't seen before. But then news came out of the pass row that they'd been hit harder. The local network had gone down, and no one could get it back up. It was rough for a while, but out in the farmland, we were used to that. Pass row, Capital Hearth. Tens of thousands of souls made it their home. That sounds bad. Because that sounds like made as the past tense. Which I guess really would have been like had made it. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, we thought the flux was a freak event until the day they got the network running again. That is when the cascade happened. System after system corrupted, data lost, and then another flux hit, and another. The bots were running circles in the field. People had to be cut out of lifter suits like mine. In the city? I never saw it, but I heard from the others. Sol shivers. It only got worse from there. We couldn't seem to fight it. It cut us right open. That's what I know about the flux. Some folks say it came from the inner system, that it might be connected to some old tech there or something, but I never heard anything more than rumors. Sol scratches their beard. Sorry, I don't have better news. Sol shifts on the crate. Anything you wanted to ask? There was something. Ember's hearth. Sure, he smiles. I mean, I spent my whole life on that rock, so I have plenty to tell. I'll save my life story for another time, he winks. But the short of it is that Hearth is the first of Ember's moons, the biggest and the most populated, which is down to the successful terraforming systems Cybele set up when Solheim owned the system. Our relations with the other moons depends on who you've been talking to. You shouldn't mistake me for a politician, Sleeper. That's for others to do. But Ember Step was a test ground for the terraforming tech that Hearth was built on, while Ember Song was the extraction site for the raw materials and energy needed to make it work. You can imagine that might lead to some tension. However, Sol holds up a hand. Despite what people might say, Hearth was never fully stable. Sol shakes his head. Cybele liked to talk it up, but after they pulled out and Solheim left, our people discovered that they'd have to keep the systems running themselves, but the place would soon add up as dry as a step. Hearth was good as long as the evaporators kept running, kept filling our sky with clouds. Even after the collapse, our people kept those things going, turning that subsurface ocean into a periwinkle blue sky. Sol smiles. Flux ended that, though, and when they failed, the rains failed and the harvest with it. Sol pauses, and soon you have a city without a way to feed itself. That's when we, some of us anyway, made the decision to set out of this place. He gestures at the Pilgrim Seed, and look for another future. Sol shifts on the crate. Anything else you wanted to ask? You want to know about me? I'm not sure that was part of the deal I was thinking of, Sleeper. Unless you're asking about this, he raps on the middle of his suit. In case you haven't guessed, this is the only thing keeping me vertical. He adjusts his shoulder piece. It's a lifter suit, made for working the fields. We had to modify it so I could walk around after the accident. And that's all I'm saying, Sleeper, because to be honest with you, I don't know you more than that. You want to know about the flux, about Ember's hearth? Go ahead. But don't pry into my life, and I won't pry into yours. And see, that makes sense. Sure, it's kind of, maybe a bit upfront about it, but it's not dickish in the same way that Pater was. Sol lets the silence sit, staring hard at the floor. Suit seems to loom over him, looking more like a burden than a support. With the bars around his head, you suddenly start to think of it as a cage. Look, I don't mean to be rude. Let's leave it there. There's too many eyes on me on this ship as it is. I'd rather just slip in the background, thank you very much. Good for now. Yeah, I'm sure. Sol stands, flexing against the suit. He takes his cane in his hand. Keep it up, sleeper. He smiles as he leaves. You're making me think that I need to start making new plans for this place. With that, Sol leaves and you wonder what he means. As he creaks away down the corridor, you can't help but feel there's more to him than it seems. So, let's help the Winslong Shadow next. Actually, I have no reason not to. So since it is interface, and we only have a +1, I'm not going to take more damage than I have to. I do find it interesting that just that money is enough, generally speaking, to keep us going. There's no answer when you buzz Lem's unit, but the door's open. You push the door and find Mina sitting in the middle of the floor, playing with Bun Bun. Hi, Mina. Hi, robot, says Mina sullenly, waving Bun Bun's paws without looking up. Where's Daddy? Mina doesn't respond. She walks Bun Bun across the floor, narrating quietly to herself. You look around the unit, it's a mess. Dishes and glasses on the side. Some of Mina's clothes piled up in a corner. Mina's sitting by her bag, which spilled out across the floor. Her drawing slate cracked and dark. Tidy up. You start with the kitchen units, piling up the dishes in the auto wash and wiping them down. Pile the clothes up next, folding them neatly. Mina watches you quietly as she plays, curious but silent. Just started to look at fixing her cracked slate when Lem enters. Sleeper, what are you? He pauses and looks from you to Mina and back again. Never mind. He drops a bag by the door and slumps onto the couch. Everything okay? Lem lets out a weak laugh. You forgot the past few cycles now? Wish I was so lucky. He looks away at the open door. Look, now's not a good time. What happened? What happened? We messed up. That's what happened. Put our hopes in someone else's stupid scheme. He pinches the bridge of his nose. You understand they never even put us on the list, right? Been all around the rim looking for work, and I've run into more than a few from the cruise. Turns out only longtime Haven Age members were issued those Sealess ID numbers. They never planned to consider us. Haven Age say they didn't know that was what they were going to use to make the draw. And who knows, maybe Sealess pulled the wool over their eyes. But what does it matter? All those hours in the yard for a hand-to-mouth wage and nothing else. Slams his hand down on the sofa. You giving up? Lem opens his mouth to respond and stops himself. He looks at the open door again. They're moving the Sidereal up the hub now, you know. He says without meeting her eye. That's where it'll depart from. They're bringing in a ship with all their cryoship pioneers, transferring them up there in microgravity before leaving the crew. Let's steal a ticket. There's no tickets. I was joking before. Just his ID numbers coded somebody's identity. No stealing that. He looks over at Mina. Look, we'll be fine. We always have been. I just need a little time, he sighs. We had our hearts set on that trip is all. Meany comes over and climbs into his lap. He smiles. What if I got you on board? I missed you these past few cycles. I missed that optimism. Lem strokes Mina's hair. Look, you want to go up to the hub and ask around? Be my guest. I can't get up there with Mina down here, and I'm sure the Sidereal will bring in a crowd. Be careful. That kind of things always attracts scammers and thieves. You find any way on board, you take it. You need help to get there, ask me. Now me and Meany are sticking to the eye. She looks up at him and smiles. Find a way for us all. Lem smiles but doesn't say anything. You stand to leave, and Mina grabs your hand, eager to give you one more smile. Then you're out, back in the walkways of the low end already, thinking of plans to make this right. Perhaps more importantly, thinking of ways to get him out. I don't really care about ourself. But if we can get him and Mina out, that's good enough. Oh, hub. Yeah. I forgot where the hub was. Don't ask. Sidereal Dock. Well, we can do this in 3 with a little bit of luck. We got a little bit of luck. Excellent. Quite the achievement, isn't she? Senator Sealess must be proud. Recognized the resonating voice of Castor immediately and turned to see him, hidden and tucked into the shadows near the viewing platform. Castor, I see you remember our game. Good. He looks around. The platform's clear. I'm afraid you'll have to wait for a rematch. Microgravity makes Tabla a little difficult. He smiles broadly. Castor walks out to stand beside you on the platform. The telltale clunk of magnetic boots accompanies his slow crossing. He notices you looking at them. I don't much like it up here, he explains. Here there was some trouble at the Haven Age shipyard when they announced the results of the crew lottery. Yeah, they screwed us. I know, he sighs, meeting your eye. An ugly business. Sealess are teached the way the things work in the core. Exploitation is the only logic they know. He gestures out at the Sidereal. You know why they built this monstrosity on the eye? Control. Certainly, but there's no corporate oversight out here, but that's not all. He stares at the pristine yellow hull. Sealess built it here, says Castor gravely, because they don't want anyone to know it exists. He rubs his forehead. And secrecy is something I can't abide. He turns to face you. There are people being loaded onto that ship as we speak. Sleeping people, locked in cryosleep like the person you were emulated from. There are hundreds of them, and Sealess wants to send them out to a planet at the edge of the settled systems without anyone knowing where it is. But you, Sleeper, can do something about that. You are like me. You deal with data. You can read it right out of the air. With someone like you on that ship, secrecy isn't a problem. And ping back whatever I need whenever I need it, as long as you're on board. With you on the Sidereal, and with some minor modifications, you can be my eyes and ears. I will keep track of Sealess's grand project through you. In short, I can get you aboard, Sleeper. But you are going to need to help me. What if I disagree? Then I doubt you will find a way onto that ship out there. It's not just me. Yes, your friend, Lem. That can be arranged. It's difficult, but not impossible. The condition is, of course, that you go too. Oh, sorry for tapping my mic there. Well, shit. Castor clunks closer to the window, watching the tugs wheeling around the Sidereal. It's a simple offer, and the only one that will get you on that ship. Please consider it. He turns back, silhouetted against the ship. To make it happen, I need your assistance. As I said, there is a Sealess Foundation ship docked in the now empty shipyard. I need the data from its servers. This will allow me to produce the IDs necessary for your transit. Castor looks over his glasses at you. Sealess aren't stupid, though. Their ship is totally isolated from the station. You'll need to get on board if you want access to their Airworld servers. Once you have the data, meet me at your friend's unit so we can give him the good news. I notice his importance to you, and the little one. So cute. You don't extract the data before the Sidereal Horizon leaves the hub, then I'll get the message. We have other options, but you're certainly my preferred one. But be sure when you act, Sleeper. Once you take the data from Sealess, you'll set off a series of events that will likely be hard for you to untangle yourself from. Either way, I recommend you stop asking around up here. You're bringing a lot of attention to yourself. Castor glances around as if to emphasize his point. There are only a handful of cycles until departure, Sleeper. Make your decision. With that, Castor marches back off the platform, sound of his mag boots fading away, leaving you to contemplate the Sidereal Horizon and the part it may play in your future. That's more cycles than I expected. 8. Excellent. It doesn't really matter. I'll just use a stabilizer when I start getting low on. And by low, I mean when the next cycle I would be at 5. Hey, bonus cryo. When you arrive at Lemon Mina's unit, Castor's already waiting outside, leaning beside the door. Forgive me, Sleeper, but Sealess is already buzzing with news of the breach. I was expecting you. Will this work? Don't worry, the breach cannot be traced to the specific IDs I'm about to create. Castor reaches into a pocket and produces a sleek green and white hand terminal. The data, please. Hand it over. If you hand over a drive with the data, Castor fishes around for a converter cable to hook it up. Slots it into the terminal, and after some whirring, a set of 2 transparent films marked with numeric sequences are produced. 2 tickets to an uncertain future. Castor smiles to himself. Child will go with Lum, of course. He pockets them. These are yours, but feet first. He holds out a white cube. Your side of the deal. What is it? Something to help us make use of you. He passes you the square and you rest it in your palm, a small white perfect cube. Suddenly you feel a sharp pain and flinch. The cube jumps from your hand and rattles along the walkway. You look at Castor apologetically. Castor smiles. Not to worry, it's done its job. And now for you to do yours. You look down and see a tiny pinprick in the center of your palm. Nothing sinister. Castor puts the terminal away. This way we can keep track of you and the Sidereal Horizon. Whatever you need to do. Excellent. Castor hands you the transparent films. See shimmering portraits of you and Lem flickering beneath the surface. Go. Give them the good news. He reaches across and buzzes the unit. Lem slides open the door, half dressed in his gear. Sleeper, what brings you here? Come in. He beckons you inside. You look to the side expecting to see Castor, but the wall's empty. The unit's cleaner, better organized than last time. Lem sits at the thin bar and gestures for you to sit. Mina's with some of the local kids. Someone's starting to do lessons down the way, and she seems to like it. Sit at the bar. What's up, Sleeper? I have some news. Out with it. I have Silas ideas for us. You have Lem freezes. How? He blinks rapidly as if to wipe you from his vision. Does that mean? Yep. Lem stands up and paces around the unit. We have to pack. He starts laughing. Holy shit, we have to pack. Turns back to you, smiling. How the hell did you swing this, Sleeper? A friend helped. Well, thank you, friend. You show him the ID films, and he whistles at the portraits. Impressive stuff. Pats you on the shoulder. You should stay until Mina gets home. You can tell her together. Sure. Buzzer goes. That'll be her. Lem gets up and opens the door. Mina, bundle of energy and life, rushes into the room. Robot, she shouts. Lem picks her up. Mina, you won't believe what they brought us. You flash her the passes, and she looks confused. We're going away after all, Minnie. He lifts her up above her head on that big, beautiful ship. Mina screams and Lems laughs. He puts Mina down and she runs over and hugs your legs. I love you, robot, she says quietly, so only you can hear. Love you too. And a while later, when you leave, you don't even think to check for Castor by the door until it's too late. Stop and turn halfway down the walkway, but there's nothing there. Even the little white cube is gone. So you keep walking, back through the low end, deep in thought, excited and scared all at once. And now, to finish up the stuff over here. I don't know if, obviously I don't know if, if taking an action that would have us leave will actually end the save. I would assume so. And if that's the case, well then we live by our actions. I see you've been contributing. Aki stands next to you at the dust house window. I was unsure what to expect when we joined the flotilla on its voyage to the Eye. But after the journey across the system, then the quarantine, and the flux reaching all the way out here too... Aki stops herself. Thank you. She bows a little. The other ships have only been interested in sending us supplies, but we grow all we need. She gestures at the dust house. What the dust houses need. That is the problem that concerns us. She smiles and turns to you. Shall we go inside? Is it safe? Aki rolls her eyes. Come see. She taps away at a panel by the window. It seems only fair that after you help with the support systems, you get to see what it is that you're maintaining. Aki leads you to an opening beside the window. You pass through a dark changing room. You notice Aki is sliding on an oxygen mask and a visor. She looks at the swirling dust inside. Inside, it's just like Ember's step. Thin atmosphere, constant dust forms. Nothing that will bother you. She passes you a mask. The dusk isn't exactly pleasant to inhale, however, so take this. You hold it to your face. She leads you through a short decontamination tunnel with its fizzing panels of purifying light, and then through into the dust house. Immediately the wind and the heat hit you. You feel the rough waves of dust scattering across your face, and peer through the amber murk. Your feet slide on shifting piles of sand. Welcome to Step, or an emulation of it at least. We're quite familiar with emulations. Aki's voice sounds distant, echoey. The terraforming process only managed to provide a limited atmosphere around the moon, one which is slowly escaping. It's been like that since I was born, so I got used to the idea. You catch her bright eyes through the amber dust, so did everything else that lives there. You feel something hard beneath your feet, beneath the sand like a coil of rope. Look down. Instinctively look down and see something pale and twisted poking out of the sand. Aki sees you looking. This is steppe silk. It's one of the plants we established on Steppe. She kicks away some red sand. Like any bast fiber, it can be retted and woven in clothes. I'm wearing some made from it myself. It's one of many species adapted to steppe since the Solheim collapse, which is why it must be preserved. She stares out into the swirling dust. It is as much a refugee as we are, and the dust house holds hundreds of other species. You look at the pale, unassuming root threaded thickly through the sand. Aki watches you silently. Had enough? It'll be easier to speak outside. Aki leads you back through the decontamination tunnel, which blasts the dust from both of you with a burst of metallic-tasting air, and into the changing room. Aki hangs up both masks, patiently awaiting your questions. What happened on Ember Steppe? Aki pauses, pulling her shawl around her. She looks small and pale inside its layers. Steppe was already a doomed world. When Solheim gave the terraforming contract to Sibel, they believed they could build an atmosphere, but the moon's erratic orbit made it impossible to maintain. By the time the Solheim collapsed, the atmosphere was already fading, and Sibel's attention was on Ember's hearth. After the collapse, Sibel fell too. Its researchers scattered across the moon, and any central organization lost. Since then, my parents' generation worked tirelessly to survive. To adapt to what we had to the failing moon, the steppe silk, the other adapted species, they're the life's work of the steppe's colonies. So when this flux started to collapse our computer systems, corrode and destroy our life support, our water supply, our agriculture, we had to leave. Aki sits heavily on a nearby bench. Soon, the only traces of steppe will be on this ship. Aki begins to cry quietly. You're unsure what to do. You sit on the bench beside her as she sobs. You understand why this ship, why the refugees from steppe, are so different. Their world was already dying when the flux arrived. Ember Steppe is a terraformed moon, a partial atmosphere, established colonies, agriculture. And yet when the flux events started, its people had to leave. You think of the eye and the delicate web of decaying system it rests upon. What hope does a ruined station have against a wave that corrupts, corrodes, and collapses? Aki interrupts your thoughts, rubbing her eyes. Not everyone left. There wasn't room to take all the people and fill the dust houses. My parents, their friends, and many others stayed. We carried the steppe for them. Aki stands. I want you to understand the importance of these dust houses, of what they contain. She leads you back out into the corridor. If the flux events continue to reach out to the eye, we need to build protections to ensure their safeties. What about the eye? Or what about the people? Aki looks away. We aren't idiots, Sleeper. We choose to carry this burden. We will survive. These dust houses are already decaying, though. I've seen it. She stares into the dust. We thought they would last longer, but that last flux event... Help us. Aki looks at you. Please. Well, when you're ready, we'll begin the preparations for reinforcing the dust houses. We need to be ready for the next flux event. Aki's eyes shine with the last of her tears. She takes a breath. I will see you soon. Aki drifts away down the corridor, leaving you alone once more at the viewing window, watching the ragged, delicate traces of the moon known as Ember Steppe. Oh, wait a second. It's not just the steppe silk that matters, though. I suppose the steppe silk in this case is standing in for all of the plants. But... I mean, mostly I'm doing this one because it seems like Well, it's... The game has not made a meaningful distinction between one or the other. And this is only risky versus dangerous. You and Aki stand side by side at the viewing window in silence. The dust swirls and you glimpse the twisted root systems as steps silk through the ochre haze. After all these cycles, you feel a strange connection to a world on which you've never set foot. Aki shifts from foot to foot. She seems restless, eager to speak, but unsure of what to say. Dust houses look good. Aki smiles at you warmly. They do. She pauses and turns back to the window. What is the value of this, she asks suddenly, of preserving a world we have left behind? Conservation. Aki is silent for a moment. These creatures should be protected, yes, but for us, their conservation is conditional. We keep them alive because we need to use them. I can't pretend we are conservators when we harvest as much as we are able. Aki paces away, lost in thought. I'm grateful to you for helping protect the dust houses, for ensuring their slide into decay is delayed, even averted. But now I find myself at an impasse. The stability of the dust houses changes things, and it makes me aware of how blinkered we have been. Aki stops to look at you, her posture somehow different. If the ecosystems of the steppe, if its people, cannot grow to meet the future, why preserve it? She frowns. Are we just slaves to the preservation of what came before? Inheritors. Aki nods, but the weight of this inheritance is heavy. Aki comes close, holding your hands in hers. We must change. We must change to live. She smiles. I've seen that in you. The steppe, these people, this ship, should serve more than heritage and history. They should serve the future. She takes a breath. There are those in the flotilla that need clothes, that need food, that can benefit from the gifts of the steppe's ecosystem. I want you to invite them. Can you do that for me? Of course. I know that Soul sent you. You can tell him, Aki, captain of the Wind's Long Shadow, invites all of the people of the flotilla to come. Captain? She smiles. You never asked. Aki steps away. You want to know about the flux, no? About its purposes, its origins. She smiles. You wish to protect your home, as we could not. I'm afraid I don't have much to tell you. It's an exotic wave of sorts, an energy that passes through matter. It shifts the very charged particles which run through our electrical systems. It's possible to shield against it, as you would radiation, as we have done with the dust houses, but only while it's weak. The flux event here was much like the first ones we felt on Ember Steppe. Localized, destructive, but bearable. In time, its strength grew. I don't know if it'll be the same here, but it's coming from the center of the system, from the close orbit of Helion's star H1. That's all we could uncover. She's silent for a moment, unsure of what to add. I'm sorry I can't offer more, but you're always welcome on this ship. She smiles. I hope I will see you when the others come. She squeezes both your hands. I hope this ship and these dust houses can be more than a museum. I hope they can be a home. With this, she turns and leaves, and you feel that word, home, resonating within you like a struck bell. Well, finally time to deal with the ship dipshits. God, their shit is so demanding, too. So, in case those are both, one time, it doesn't say whether they're critical or repeatable. See, this is why I didn't just grab more spores. Actually, may as well. 5 will work. I don't need a fucking full... No, I say I don't need a full ship mind, but... Wait, another flux node, you say? That's probably relevant to peak. May as well grab them. I assume this one will also be a 6.5. Close enough. Momentarily forgot my what my controls were. Okay, so we give the dipshits a ship mind, and we should be good. I'll deal with peak after I've finished as much as I can up here. You cross the axis looking for a shuttle to take you back to the ruined cordon. Spot Peter, standing at the edge of the central hub. Something about the way he is leaning against a rail, looking down across the axis and towards the blinking lights of the flotilla beyond makes you pause. He's completely still, his head drooping low and his shoulders hunched high. Even B. Watch for a moment more, and move off across the hub toward a promising-looking shuttle dock. Peter didn't look like he wanted to be disturbed, but as you climb towards the docking tunnel towards the departing ship, you can't help but glance back. You spot him there, still at the railing, so small in the cavernous chamber of the hub. He seems untouched by motion around him, lost in memory or thought. Feel a cold shiver rising from inside and slip out through the docking tunnel before it can touch you. Gotta keep moving. Okay. So, this one will take a bit of time. Because because this is a 12 and those are, we can do at most 2. But with our actions here, we can cover 8 of the 12. Have you ever heard of con channels, Sleeper? He asks as soon as you enter the bay, as if you were in the middle of the conversation. You ever notice how many channels are actually con channels? There are heavy circles under their eyes, and you aren't sure if they've moved since you last visited. The console they're working at seems to have grown too, shadowing their slight frame in a wealth of screens and wires. Con, you mean for transit? Yeah, exactly. Peak turns to face you. Kiamani's active negation, the name of the effect used to transport trillions of tons of material from the surrogate systems to the core. You might have heard of it in your physics classes. At XPR, they hammered the principles into us as kids. Can. K-A-N. Peak recites the definition as if in the classroom. A process of collapsing spatial causality along the Euclidean distance between 2 points by negating mass simultaneously at both ends of a geodesic curve. Essentially, KAN channels allow for the near-instantaneous transport of raw materials between systems. It requires huge volumes of energy, of course, and decades of construction. Once a CAN channel is established, it opens up a system for infinite exploitation. Backbone of surrogacy is what XPR called them. Peak shakes their head. They may not be able to send anything more complex than a rock through them. Complex machines and people are, shall we say, reconfigured by the process, but for raw, molecularly pure materials? Peak flicks a hand. Whoosh. Where's this going? Peak pauses. What I was trying to find out was whether the Helion system, this channel, ever had a con channel. Con channels are vastly expensive to build, to run. Not every surrogate system has one. Many use fraction drive ships to transport their materials to the nearest hub. But Solheim? Peak smiles. Solheim spared no expense when they established this system. There's a con channel? Yep. Peak's eyes light up. They shut it down before the collapse, and they couldn't run the sender-receiver station anymore. But it was still there. It still is, as far as I can tell. Closely orbiting our star. In fact, Peak grins. They've been building to this. I'm sure it's still there, because one of the issues with con channels are the massive waves of exotic energy they can produce when cycling up. The flux. Exactly. Peak's face suddenly drops. Someone is starting up the channel. But who? Peak sucks in a breath. That I don't know. They start cutting off information on their fingers. They'd need a lot of resources to do it, and they'd need to have people from the core systems. But there's no real large-scale extraction in the Helion systems anymore. So why would you go to trouble? Just to trigger the flux? Peak rubs their red eyes. The flux, the wave the con effect produces, is a side effect, a problematic one. But it isn't a destructive force. If it was, the core systems would have never been able to use it. So then why are colonies collapsing because of it? Why is it chewing through systems? Kind of industrial systems set up to function within the range of a once active con channel. Peak is getting frustrated. The moons of Ember have been terraforming since before the collapse. They would have had to deal with the flux, yet everything we have heard from the refugees says it brought down every system they had. Peak falls quiet, thinking it all through. Your mind drifts too, thinking of the con channels, those vast acausal hot highways that prop up the core systems and their endless appetite for resources. This system has been quiet for decades. Solheim collapsed, most corporations gave up their claims, and apart from the Sealess ships that came to begin work on the sidereal horizon, no one from the core has come here in all that time. You shiver as you imagine the attention of the core, the systems of logic and exploitation that created you, created your suffering, turning towards the Helion system. Floodlight turned to this dark corner. A shrill bleep catches both of your attention, and Peak rushes to a screen, one showing a crude map of the station. On it, individual markers begin to flare up with insistent chirps. Peak looks puzzled for a moment, and then their face drops. No. They lean in close. This doesn't make any sense. Bad news. Flux nodes are appearing elsewhere on the station. Peak pulls at their hair. Set the system to alert me to other flux nodes near the epicenter of the flux event. These are everywhere. The hub, the low end. How can this happen? The only reason we saw flux nodes here is because it's the most rundown part of the station. They were barely shielded, but others appearing? So far after the event? Peak turns to you. You're going to need to get me data from these nodes, and quickly. I'll keep looking at what I have here, but I need to know why they're popping up everywhere. Right now? Right now. Talk more about con channels and system history when you're back. This needs our attention right now. Peak turns quickly back to their monitor, her eyes following scrolling screens of code spewing from the newly fluxed nodes. You leave quickly, but struggle to shake the image of the spotlight from your mind. You feel watched as you cross back into the Peak Pilgrim Seed on your way to a shuttle bay. You hurry onward, eager to outrun the fear. So we saw at least 2... Wait. How many do we need? My dumbass should have checked that first. 3, I think. 3. We have 1. We can get 2 more relatively easily, assuming they're both 6.5s. Assuming they're both 6.5s, let's use the 5 first. They are not. This one is a 4.6. Actually, that's a good question. So I'm kind of holding off on grabbing another drink because I suspect that 4-cycle timer is going to be it, but I really probably should just stand up and bite the bullet. Yeah, in fact, I'll be right back. So it turns out, sitting without moving for like 2.5 hours, not the greatest idea. Peak loads the data into their data decoding setup. It'll be just a moment. Don't leave, sleeper. You watch as Peak works on the flux data. The node's unfolding like flowers now, giving into Peak's increasingly sophisticated decoding protocols. Seeing data like this as an image on a screen is an almost unrecognizable representation to you. It's nothing like swimming among nodes and threads. Despite this, Peak has proven themselves to be more than able to handle these complex data structures, even through this limited representational paradigm. The Beidor hisses, interrupting your flow of thoughts. You turn to see Esh entering. Esh! She looks up and meets your eye, but doesn't respond. Esh stalks into the bay, head down. She looks tired and not in a mood to talk. How's the weapon hunt? Peak asks, without turning from their screen. Slow, unsuccessful, tedious. Ash slams a bag down on a crate and hops up to sit on it. You still unpicking balls of yarn? If the sleepers help, Peak smiles. They brought me some good stuff this cycle. Maybe they could help you find the weapons you were smuggling? It's clear that Esh doesn't appreciate Peak's tone. Still looking? Esh replies. Whoever took them better be making the most of their rapidly shortening lifespan right now. Esh, Peak cuts in without looking away from the console. We talked about this. This is my mistake, Peak, and I'll fix it how I want. Esh folds her arms. I know one of the factions the flotilla has taken them. I just need to find out it was the singers. Peak holds up a hand. Shh. They lean in towards the screen. Son of oh no. They hit it in the way of the wave. Peak's whispering to themselves. It's alive. They lean back in their chair. Ash crosses over to look at the screen. Alive? Well, it's growing, it's processing, it's quietly working away in the dark. Look. You cross over to the screen and stand beside Ash. In it, you can see that Peak has all 4 nodes decoded, and the pattern of shadows from inside them sit on the screen like dark stains. Then you notice it, the movement. The thin threads cross from one stain into another. As you watch, you notice that the movement only happens in your peripheral vision, as if this shadow, knows it is being watched. This is how the other flux nodes appeared. Peak rubs their eyes. They weren't fluxed by the wave, they were corrupted after the fact. This thing, the shadow, that entered in the wake of the wave, it corrupted them. But it made the corruption look like the result of the flux. It's a sleight of hand. Peak runs a hand through their hair. The flux wave is so massive, so complex, that it opens up the systems to be attacked. As it reconfigures exposed systems, the shadow is broadcast in, implanted inside. The wave from the con channel, it's a brute force way of hitting every system in Helion. Once the systems are vulnerable, Peak looks pale. Her eyes reflect the screens. The flux isn't what's attacking the subsystems. It's the siege weapons. Trojan horse. Then this thing takes over. Peak sits back in their chair, and it's already on the eye. Wait. Ash rubs her forehead. You're telling me there's a con channel in this subsystem? In this system? Shit, Peak isn't listening. This is bad. We have to take this to someone. Peak looks desperately at you. What would Saul be able to do? Shit, what would Helene be able to do? Fuck. Is that wise? Ash cuts in. Haven Age haven't exactly made good decisions lately. They're the station administrators, Ash. They need to know. The argument rages between them, and as you watch them shouting, you feel sick. After a while, they stop, running out of things to say. An unsettling silence descends on the bay. I need more time, Peak says quietly. I need to look at solutions, try to build a case, collate the evidence. We mess this up. They look down at their hands. Ash goes to speak, and thinks better of it. Not a word, Sleeper. Peak meets your eye. Don't tell anyone until they're ready. They sigh. With the tension among the refugees, Sol won't be ready to hear this, and Helene and Haven Age are still mired in some kind of crisis. Tell Haven Age, they'll likely react badly. If you tell Sol, I doubt he'll take it well either. If you can calm the situation in the flotilla, then we can choose. You're too twisted up in this, Peak. This is not our place. We don't owe... Stop, Ash. Stop. Leave him like that, exhausted and troubled, and head back out into the Pilgrim Seed. When you close your eyes, you think of those shadows, that movement at the edge of your vision, something dark growing in the station like a parasite. You feel sick, your vision blurs. What comes next? You stop in a corridor, take a breath, putting a hand on a rumbling metal wall. For now, the eye keeps spinning. For now. Oh neat, an upgrade point. We can do fuck all with an upgrade point. Okay. I'm gonna hit up the Bantian to cook up some more of those matsutakes, but I don't know why this side of the ship feels more nauseating to scroll over quickly. Or at least for it to scroll down. Scrolling up seems fine, regardless of how much action and such there is. But scrolling down seems a little bit nauseating in some cases. Oh, nice, random scrap. Sleeper, Peter calls you as you cross the axis. He's standing by the same railing you saw him at the last time, and he beckons you over. When hearing things, he gives you a sidelong look. Don't be so nervous. He rubs his hand together nervously. You wait for him to speak. You know, on song, I was a teacher. He glances at you, anticipating a response. Really? Don't sound so surprised. Mechanical engineering. It's an essential subject on a moon where a single mechanical failure could mean the death of hundreds. He looks at the ground. The heat, the atmosphere, the radiation, all of it hostile to us. My students knew this. Their work, their training was respected. As long as they were careful and respected song themselves, they could have their choice of colony placements. They were always in demand. That meant I was respected, surrounded by friends and colleagues, always able to call in favors and repay them for like. He frowns. Some colonies are small, close-knit. We look after our own. When the flux events started hitting, colonies went dark overnight. We all knew what those kind of failures meant. Like always, we lost more people than any of the other moons. He balls his hand into tight fists. Not a single one of my students left Song. Our future was cut off, just like that. My future. He flexes his hand. What am I out here? What use am I? Song is a fading memory, and the systems we built there are useless outside its orbit. How am I supposed to move on from here? He looks at you in the eye, eyes steely and gray and glinting. Find someone to teach. Peter pauses, thinking. You don't give up, do you, Sleeper? You just keep going. Peter shakes his head. Remind me of a student of mine, one who entered the program from one of the smaller colonies. They didn't have the advantages of some of the others, but they were stubborn. Stubborn as hell. By the end of the program, they were the most skilled of their peers. They didn't get the best assignment, maybe because they didn't spend much time making the kind of connections that would help you get there. That didn't matter, because I knew they would make the best of anything they set themselves to do. Peter's smiling now, buoyed up a little by memory. Singers are stubborn, Sleeper. We aren't going to change easily. We won't forgive easily, take help easily. We'll hold strong. You can count on us for that. Peter stands from the railing. When you see Soul again, you can tell him that. You can tell him how the crews of Ember Song operate. Tell him if we will resist. If that means resisting Hearth's imperialist ambitions, so be it. If it means resisting the flux, so be it. And if it means, as you have, help others resist those same pressures, so be it. And tell him to leave us alone. He turns, a step lighter, and heads off towards the center of the Axis' hub. Still an ass. When you arrive at the bridge of the Pilgrim Seed, Soul's waiting for you. Wouldn't believe the messages that come in these past few cycles, Sleeper. He smiles. Ship from Steppe sent a goodwill gesture, whole cache of supplies from their own farms. Not sure how we use them, but the gesture is a welcome one. Song, meanwhile, are apparently accepting supplies again, although a little reticently, if I may say so. Soul smiles. I don't expect them to change anytime soon, should be said. What I'm wondering, Sleeper, is what part you had in all of this. Soul eyes you, waiting for the answer. I helped where I could. Come to expect that of you, Sleeper. He smiles. You look at Soul, his eyes bright and eager, and you wonder what he sees in you. Are you a tool to be used, or an ally? It can be hard to tell. Well, frankly, what we have demonstrated is we are probably a tool. I am definitely a tool, but not a useful one. I want to show you something. Soul squeezes your shoulder, turning you to face the lift. He leads you along the axis of the ship, towards the engines, clanking of his suit accompanied by the constant hammering and welding that fills the echoey bulkheads of the Pilgrim Seed at all hours. The cordon lifted and shuttles able to go out to salvage scrap and barter for supplies, ship has become a place of transformation, moving towards some state yet to be revealed to you. You look at Soul. What's his plan here? What is he preparing the Pilgrim Seed for? Or is his sharp eyes simply focused on making it through the next cycle? Suddenly Soul stops in front of a huge bulkhead door, like the seal on the front of a dry dock hangar. He signals to someone in a cabin high up, attached to the wall, and they begin the process of opening it up. The Pilgrim Seed was built as a short-range freight carrier, you know? The amber warning lights on the bulkhead door send spinning shadows across Soul's face. We built it to ship entire harvests from thousands of farms to the silos at Passero. When we realized we'd need to leave, it was the biggest ship we could muster, Soul wraps on a metal plate. And somehow, she's carried us all the way out here. We? Farmers mostly, from outside the city, and the edges. He flexes his shoulder beneath his suit. We saw it coming first, I guess. Knew it was time. Others didn't want to believe. I was a farmer. Had a whole load of land and people to run it, and my people helped convert this place for the long run. The long trip. He looks at his feet. Others led, organized the evacuation, and debated the plan. What happened? Not one of those folks made it. Soul rubs his forehead. We were out in the black a long time before we got here, Sleeper. Things happen. The upshot is I was chosen to take over. I guess my crew trusted me and I knew the ship. I argued. Reminded them I'm no leader. I'm sick. Well, when service chooses you. Loud klaxon sounds, indicating the bulkhead doors are ready to open. They groan as they slide back, the metal squeals echoing through the vast ship, bouncing off its hard-plated walls. At first, all you see is darkness. Then the lights go on, in huge strips that stretch back and forth, back and back as far as you can see. The space in front of you, a vast bay, bigger than you have ever seen, is empty. When we left Earth, we didn't have the time or resources to convert the entire ship. Soul begins leading you into the massive space. So much of the freight space we sealed away, shut down. But now we have time, we have resources, we stabilized here, at least for the moment. Now is the time we make use of all of this. What are you planning? What do you think happens next for the Eye, Sleeper? The flux has already hit one part of the station, and from what I know, it'll hit again. On Earth, we lost everything. There isn't much time, Sleeper, but there is enough time to do something. Think of the number of people we can fit on here. Farming stacks, the housing. Hell, we can plant some of those mushrooms you love so much. This is the way forward, the only way. We need to fill this ship with able bodies and head for the starboard belt. I thought the Eye was your destination. It was, until the flux hit here. Now it's just another stop. I'm glad I had the chance to resupply and salvage, but we need to go further out. I want you to help me. You know the Eye, you have connections, and you can work hard. I've seen it. I know you're like me, Sleeper. You didn't choose service, but it chose you. Can this work? It has to, Sleeper. There's nothing else. I know it's a lot to think about, Sleeper. Trust me. Soul begins to lead you back out of the bay. But think of what we can do here. The flotilla can't last forever. We need more than just farmers to make this work. We need to build a new world for ourselves. I've heard that out there in the belt, there are people who've been setting up since the collapse, making something of their own. That's our future, tucked away in those rocks, far away from all of this. I didn't bring my people just to let them die somewhere new. Soul crosses back over the threshold of the bay, and signals for the operator to close it up. The door groans, and Soul waits for it to stop. Think about it, Sleeper. Soul claps an arm on your back. But don't wait too long. This is happening soon. And he leaves you there, in the silence of this vast bay, your head spinning with the thought of leaving the Eye. Oh, now we're at 2 points. We only need a fucking third one. Oh, we're at 2 of, well, potentially 3. If I had realized this, I might not be playing this right now. God damn it. Well, I guess we are escaping on the Sidereal Horizon then. No reason not to. Oh wait, these are endure actions. I was thinking it might be in engineer actions. I couldn't remember. Well, let's see how it is. Oh, yeah. If I'd remembered this one, I could have just bought a fucking core. Not a huge deal, ultimately. Okay, so 2 more. Which means we're gonna want some, scrap just to cover us. It is astounding to me, though, that the plus 2 endure just by and large seems to be the actual value of endure is that there are a lot of things that use it, and then its actual things are fucking useless. I think it was only at the very start of the game that Sunbathe was at all useful, and even then I think I've only used it a couple times. Probably could have gotten by just fine with other sources of food. One more, I think. I mean, ultimately, I may come back and play this again. Probably with less voicing all of the lines, but I guess we'll see how what state this leaves Arcea then. I say as if. Yeah, may as well drop the other one there. And here we are. This should be I mean, the important thing was we got the ticket for Lem. Oh, there's a crowd, but you spot Lem and Mina immediately as you enter the dock. They're waiting at the cordon where Celis security are checking the crew in to board the ship. Those that manage to get up to the hub are crowded near the entrance, but even though they know that their chance of getting on board is long gone, Lem spots you among the crowd. Sleeper, we're here. You're standing beside a bag which looks to carry all the possessions they have. It's small enough to be carried in one hand. You ready? Lem smiles nervously. Well, I guess so. He hefts the bag. Hope they'll let us take this on board. Got our whole life in here. You hand over the Celis ID film to Lem, keeping your own. Turns it back and forth in the light. Where did your friend even get this picture, Sleeper? Looks like my old Conway ID. You look, and a shimmering, younger Lem stares out of the film. Harder and clean cut. Spoke to the guard here. Nods to the white and green-clad security officer. We'll be doing orientation and role assignment on board. Sounds like we're going to be working under the core crew, kind of like an intern. He laughs. What do you think, Meanie? Am I too old to be an intern? Following Lem's lead, you inspect your ID. As you lift the film up to the light, you see something strange. Something that makes you flinch. The face printed on the film is one you recognize, but it's not you. At least, it's not how you look now. You squint at this ghost, confused why you hadn't noticed earlier. It's a picture you remember being taken, a memory you didn't know you even had. You remember signing the forms, the walk to the sleeper tanks, and the cold metal floor. You remember the SNRP who helped you in, her smile clean and surgical. You freeze in place, thinking of the you that still sleeps somewhere in an SNRP facility, that won't wake until you're recovered and disposed of. And now you're leaving. Will they ever wake up? Sleeper. Lem interrupts your thoughts. These guys want us to board. You stare at him without thinking, then notice the guard gesturing to you both to come forward. You all kick and float over to them. Steadying yourselves on the guardrail, you hang back, letting Lem present his ID film first. The guard slides it across a white machine, much like the one Castor printed them from. You reflexively rub the puncture mark on your hand. Even though there's no trace of it now, it seems to be your destiny to be someone else's tool. Lem and Mina are waved through, the guard smiling at her excited face. Lem turns back to check you're coming. The guard beckons you closer. Well, if there were still other things to do, we'd be waiting. But there's no reason for this character to wait here forever. Bored. You shake off your doubts and hand over your ID film. The guard barely looks at it as they pass through the scanner and wave you through. A new life built from old things. You okay, Lem asks, concerned as you catch up with him. You're so slow, robot, Mina teases, grabbing at you with small hands. Just making sure. Lem nods and you realize how much harder it must have been for him to cross that threshold. Mina struggles in his arms, trying to get to you, and Lem relents, struggling with both his bag and his daughter. Mina tumbles through the microgravity and grabs onto your clothes for purchase. Pulling herself in your arms, you all proceed up the walkway, the entrance to the docking bridge yawning wide in above you. Are we family, robot? Mina asks as you move, taking you by surprise. I guess so. Mina smiles and presses her head against your chest, pleased by your answer. You keep moving, up into the docking bridge, and along that thin glass-walled connector. All the time, Mina clutching onto you. The lack of gravity means you can't feel her weight, only the grip of her small hands on your clothes. You both stare wide-eyed at the vast hole of the sidereal horizon and try to think of this huge machine as a home. Later, when you settle in your bunk after Mina's finished running back and forth between you and Lem with an endless and infectious excitement, you find yourself looking at your ID film once more. Somehow, since the last time you looked at it, the image seems to have changed. It's still a picture of the old you, the person that signed up to have their consciousness copied and placed into the ownership of SNRP. But something else has crept in that image. An underlying sense of self-identification. This is also a picture of you. You now. The you that survived the eye, that made friends here, that found a way out, that escaped against all odds. The other you might never wake up, they might never live again, but so be it. They consigned you to a doomed life for their own gain. Their life is yours now, and you will live it better than they ever could. You lie back on your bunk as the thrust of the sidereal's vast engines kick in. This feeling, this rumble, will be your constant companion for the next decade. It will be there when you work, when you watch Mina grow, when you dream of the planet at the end of the journey. It will stay with you when your body starts to fail despite the best attempts of Lemon Mina. As the year stacks up and it exceeds its safe operating period by a decade, it will be the thing you wake up to in those rare moments of consciousness, between which Mina will keep you in a frozen state in the hope of preserving you until your destination is reached. It will be there when Mina wakes you, tears in your eyes, to tell you of Lem's inevitable death, and it will not relent despite your desire for a moment of silence. It will be the final thing you hear as Mina shuts down all but the most vital of your functions and hopes beyond hope that you make it to your final destination, all the while doubting that you will. But for now, in this moment of departure, it's still a new sound, a new feeling, and because of this, it is filled with the promise of the future. And so, you settle back on your bunk and close your eyes, and in moments you're sleeping a perfect, dreamless sleep, the most peaceful that you can ever remember. And since this is the last time for this, we're letting it play. God damn it. God damn it, I noticed an additional fucking typo in the credits. I say additional, but additional is the word that was misfucking spelled. God damn it. Ah. I am astounding at ruining the mood of things immediately. But okay, that game absolutely kicked ass. Then again, you know, I'm not exactly sitting here at a super strong position for, you know, favorite games that were released last year. Much as I played Elden Ring, I think fucking this and Ghost Song are easily the tops. And I think this, frankly, is easily the top there. Pretty sure that first day I played it, it was top. So, let's see what happens when we continue that save. Now, what I'm hoping for, and this is going to sound weird, what I'm hoping for, we didn't get. In a weird way, what I was hoping for was that the game would tell us to get fucked. That character's gone. But I know that people who want to see the endings would be very unhappy with that, so I guess I can't complain too loudly. One of those deals of completionists, or possibly, you know, just people who achievement hunters. They need this too. Anyway, that's gonna be it for me. Hope you have a fantastic day. Also, I forgot to record this one, so I'm gonna need to just transfer the video over from Twitch so it'll be lower quality. C'est la vie.